Wow, that comes in real slow. It's like far too peaceful for an intro song. I feel like I gotta give it a couple seconds to pick up before we can jump in on that. There we go. There's a beat. How we doing? See, that's all I needed. That's all I really wanted. What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome in. Welcome. We are doing some talking today about Salvage. Didn't think I'd be talking about Salvage this week. Nice to be. It's nice to hear that whole Munching is going to get talked about. Kind of a bummer that it's just an early prototype. You expected them to be further along than that, but I think that's something I say just about every month with this game. So, whatever it is, it is. Salvage still sounds like it's a ways away in terms of hull munching, but we'll be going over all of that today, folks. I've got drone news, I've got hull munching news, we've got siphoning news, we've got salvage charges. A lot of different ways we're going to be salvaging stuff in this game, so I thought we could take a couple hours and, as always, go over all the stuff, all the things. How y'all doing today? Welcome in. Johnny, how you doing? Knights, good to see you. Zaramic, Pungy with the toes. Got the punge toes. What's up, man? Zolani, Joe, good to see you. Cantor, Early Gang, DJ, Early Gang, Michael, Cotton, welcome. Holding it down on Twitch with the sub, with the mod. Thank you so much. How y'all doing over there on Twitch, by the way? Mosh Ferratu. What are you up to today? You having a good one? Stanko, 07's buddy. Oh, I'm gonna have to close this window real quick here. Cat Hill, good to see you. Enjoy the stream. Wish you could watch right now, but no time. Need to change the time zone for that. We'll wait for the YouTube, no problem. This will be up on YouTube. Just finished the economy VOD, and see, we're live today again. Yes, that'll be up on the second YouTube channel as well. Fungus, what's up with the 4 to 5 minute delay? No delay, my friend. Or at least you shouldn't be delayed. I should be live right now for you, but I go live at 5. I think we hit it almost on the dot, and there he is on the dot. Be right back. All right, so bummed out. I'm gonna have to close the window for a bit. It is hot. Anybody else in Eastern Europe right now? What am I talking about? Anybody else in the Western Hemisphere? What am I looking for? The weather. What is the temperature right now? Oh, that's not even that bad. 33 degrees. Humidity's not even that high. It just feels terrible in this room right now. Y'all feeling the heat though? I know some people are going through some pretty bad heat waves. And then in Australia, you guys are like, what do you mean? What do you mean heat? South Florida here, it's either hot or less hot. Yeah, I don't miss my summers in Florida. I will say they weren't as hot as they are here. No, that's not true. They were hotter there. Yeah, summers in Florida were worse than here. And we also didn't get snow, which is nice here. You're at 18 degrees right now, Cad? That's pretty nice. It's a little chilly. Not bad, though. Think your skin is melting off, DJ? UK over here. Yo, UK has been struggling these last few summers. How are you guys doing right now? You still going through the mass air conditioning adoption out there? Scotland enjoying the gray like every other day. It's either hot gray or less hot gray. 112 out there in Oklahoma. Not bad, Oklahoma. That dry heat, huh? Baking ya heat. Taryn, yo man, thank you for the sub. 25 months this dude has been here supporting us and supporting this pizza for 25 months. And just about every time Taryn comes in here with some pizza biddies, we end up getting pizza. So thank you so much. There is a Domino's that is grateful to you almost as much as we are. Appreciate you. Zencat, 43 degrees in Italy last week. I was actually in Italy last week. We got swamped. We actually got destroyed by a flash thunderstorm when we were out there. Other than that, it wasn't too hot. But we were in the northern part. Icaro, good to see you back into the space lettuce. We've got a good program for today, guys. It's going to be interesting stuff. It's a lot of tangible stuff, salvage stuff. They had salvage ready to talk about from the get-go. We're starting in 2015 here. And they just kept going at it with the same consistent concept surrounding salvage for like 8 years until we finally started to see it. The whole munching, or the what's it called? Whole stripping that we do right now is actually not involved really with the first concept of salvage. It was more on the repair side, and it kind of got brought in. So that'll be funny to talk about. But other than that, they were really consistent with what they wanted to do with salvage. Right now it's 16 o'clock. What's your time? 17, my friend. 17 o'clock. What's up, Honey Springs Homestead? Humid and hot out there? Glad to hear we're all suffering together. 18 shades of gray, one for every degree of the thermostat. That's gross. It's too much. That's too many different cloud types. South Africa, a warm 3 degrees Celsius. Bringing it in toasty, Zolani. Happy to hear it. Okay. Let me turn on this recording. Record and record. Make sure that actually works on both sides. Sometimes it doesn't. So, like I said, we have some fun stuff to go through today. Salvage is one of the longest running game features that they've talked about but not put into the game. We have gotten hull stripping over the last year, which wasn't really salvage but is kind of salvage. But next is hull munching. We know that hull munching is probably coming sometime relatively soon, speaking of salvage as a whole, because apparently in ISC tomorrow, for many of you who might be watching this after the fact, beforehand, a couple days ago maybe, hull munching, an early prototype, is being shown on Inside Star Citizen. So I figured we go through the history of it. As always, we take a look at all the videos where they've talked about salvage in any major way. We're looking at salvage attachments, salvaging drones, salvage charges and detonations, finally leading up to the salvage that we do know and where we are today. So, thanks for joining me. Welcome to the newest deep dive, going into, I think, the most interesting gameplay in the game right now, because combat's not really all that cool. Sorry to say. It's just pew pew. It's fun. It's just like, in a game with all this possibility, I'd like to do more than shoot at stuff. Or at least shoot stuff with a salvage laser instead of a regular pew pew laser. You pledged to Cuddy Black way back just for the tractor beam and salvage talk. Super glad it is getting close to being a thing. I am interested in seeing what they do for this concept. It sounds like they might go a little bit harder on the hull munching than I thought they would. Especially with this whole maelstrom damage system they're talking about now. Who knows what mumbo jumbo they're planning. I really hope it doesn't make them have to go back through every single ship and like recalibrate how the ships work. How could I? What's up, Cat Mom? What'd I do? Oh, the combat quip. Hey, I'm here for all the people who want to do combat. Trust me. If you are GII, if you're GII security, be ready for all of the fun combat missions, combat escorts, all the stuff. All right, we're going to facilitate that out the gills. You're going to have pew pew coming out of your pew pew. And so I have no problem with that. You're okay. You're safe. I personally, though, won't be shooting the guns. I'll be repairing the ship. Mrs. Tomato in chat saying we were planning on murdering people together, doing some criminal stuff. We are going to be doing that next week. It's a little bit too crazy hot, and she's not feeling too great, so she's going to be relaxing as a mod today and continuing editing some videos. So we'll be doing that next week, probably bringing on a special guest or two, a couple extra pirates with us to have some fun with those missions. But just a heads up, if you didn't realize that Mrs. Tomato's not here, she's not right now. That's not a bad pun. It's an okay pun. It's all right. It won't get me like canceled or anything. Feel better, Mrs. Tomato. We wish the best for you. Take a cold shower, honestly. It's too hot. All right, so let's start this out with our first little peek into Salvage. This is like 8 years ago. Probably not our first peek, all right? This is, I think, the first substantial look, but they've talked about it probably prior to this. Actually comes in the ship repair and maintenance little thingy-majig. So if you scroll down, you can see that like some of this stuff does look pretty similar to Salvage and whatnot. Interestingly, they get very deep into this, materials and stuff. Talking here about repairs taking place in a workshop require the consumption of the raw construction materials gathered through mining, scavenging, and trade. So like that would be part of the economy, right? You have to make sure that there are enough minerals being mined and sent to refineries, which then turn them into metals, which then get cargo hauled to, I guess, repair stations. Like that would be a cargo mission. That's, you know, that's kind of how they sell the idea. The repair task manager can assign different materials according to the repair task at hand via their console's material panel. So yeah, they got really deep in with like materials and how they would affect your ship. I don't rule it out that they still get to this level. I don't know where they would fit this in. Generally, these kinds of documents that they had from this time back in the day, they would go into a bunch of details, and those details find a way into the gameplay, just not in the way that they lay out here. So then there's reconstruction, yada, yada, yada. We get down here to the repair arm operator, and they have here stripping. Yay. Don't judge it. Everybody's got to do something to make money. Hull stripping is vital for improving the integrity of a ship's hull that has only sustained light damage, as only missing segments can be patched. In stripping mode, the repair arm's high-powered laser is used to cleanly remove parts of a component's surface without causing structural damage to the surrounding area. Stripped surfaces are converted and collected as a percentage of its raw materials. Stripping is also necessary when a component or part has been completely detached. Full component reconstruction requires a clean attachment point, requiring the operator to cut away any debris that compromises the area. So this obviously is what happened. This is what I was talking about. Hull stripping is here kind of more related to repair, and it ended up being put into salvage. So sometimes these details just find a different way into the game. But this was the first time we heard about the real, I guess, scope of what they wanted to do with salvage. And there's more stuff here, you know, putting on an actual part, making the frame and making sure like you have an attachment point, cutting off the edges that are kind of irregular. There's a lot of stuff on this document that goes into this. And down here they talk about components, subcomponents, and stuff like that. That's stuff that we've seen from engineering. So again, it is on the ship repair and maintenance section, not the engineering section. I guess ship maintenance is basically engineering. And here it is, talked about in 2015. So a lot of times, sometimes people will say, a lot of times, sometimes. Sometimes, many times, people will say that like this stuff is feature creep when it ends up popping up in some ISC or something somewhere, and you go back and find these documents, and usually they have something about it. So that is our first look at salvage. Next up, we've got some talk about, I believe this is about salvaging drones. This is from a while ago, 2018. This was with the release of the concept for the Vulcan, a ship we still don't have, but I really, really want. It's a cool ship. It's meant to be kind of a multi... Hold on, we can look it up real quick. Like a multi-job industrial ship. It's got these drones. That's a really small picture. Let's see if we can pull up the wiki here. So it's got these drones on it. You can see my camera's like kind of in the way. This like drone here that's attached to the Eclipse is one of the drones from the Vulcan. You can see another one of them right here. There he is. Cute little guy. And these drones are packaged up in the Vulcan. You know what? Screw it. Do we have... I think I could probably find... There is video of this. And it should be in here somewhere. Here we are. So you can see
going out at any one time.
They've got like a whole compartment in here.
Two drones at a top capability.
And they're meant to like, it's meant to launch drones out. So you're in here, you change out the equipment on your drones.
The mothership too.
You have these like two kind of airlock doors where you can go in, change the equipment on the drones, whether they're repairing, rearming, refueling, maybe even like a salvage laser. I don't know what they could put on there, but you're supposed to change out the drone equipment, put it in the door, the drones launch out of the ship, and they go and they resupply or rearm or repair another ship. So this is like a really cool ship. It's got a cool size to it. It's like 30 meters, I think, or 20 something meters long. So it's like a cool two-person kind of size ship where you could probably make a lot of money together. And it does a really cool, unique job. So that's the introduction of drones and what they're going to be talking about here in the context of Salvage. Dutchman, dude, how you doing? Good to see you. I think I saw you say hi earlier. Sorry I missed you, dude. Sven, welcome. I see you too. I'm scrolling up in chat to see you guys. When are they releasing today's roadmap update? Sometime after this stream, I'm imagining. It's usually kind of late. May Odin give you knowledge on your path. May Thor grant you strength and courage on your way. And may Loki give you laughter as you go. May the blessings of your gods and my own be with you all. Thanks, friend. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a good day, man. May all of those gods continue to be in better movies than they have been recently too, because we could use some better film, better superhero films. All right, let's talk about these drones. What do they have to say? Sorry if the volume is a little bit down. You know how they are in their videos.
So they do look similar, but they do perform different functions. Like the Reclaimer ones are there for salvage, and cutting stuff up, which is not useful for a repair ship.
No.
Now,
well, indirectly,
got to cut out the bad.
You got to cut off the rotten flesh.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the questions that was in the Spectrum thread and voted up: if the drones are different, can they be swapped? Can we take the salvage drones from the Reclaimer and put them in the Vulcan? Can we take the refueling, repairing, rearming drones and put them on the Reclaimer if they're made from the same manufacturer?
I would imagine you can, but the usability of them takes a severe dent. Like naturally, the Vulcan has the ability to pipe fuel into it, so the Reclaimer doesn't have that. So you could probably take the salvage drone out of the Reclaimer and put it in Vulcan, and it's all self-contained, so it's fine. They can carry stuff fine, but some of the more specialized functions,
because if you've got a fuel line from the tank underneath to the drone, so you can fuel the drone up before sending it out, you could potentially have a salvage drone that takes fuel from wrecked ships and brings it back and then tops back up your tank. So you could potentially see a way where you would have a salvage drone useful as one of the four.
They don't explicitly say it, but that's like one of the we'll see later on in this little deep dive we're doing. That's one form of salvaging is siphoning out fuel. Yo, Tyrus, thank you for the... Dude, I appreciate you, man. You've been actually absolutely driving us through this summer. Thank you so much. Join GII, folks. Tyrus Rex. Gotta love him. Appreciate your support. If you just got a membership over on YouTube, make sure to check out the exclusive vids. They're still there. Now, I don't think there was anything more in this video going over Salvage. Let's listen real quick.
But not like if you have cargo drones on some ships, or if you have other types of drones, it's like, well, I have no need of a repair drone because I can't send fuel to it and I can't put metals into it, kind of thing. Like, you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
But if the option could still be there potentially.
Right. Simultaneous questions from the live chat and from the thread here where folks are voting. A lot of people wanting to know how many ships can we repair. I mean, obviously.
Okay, so they're basically sticking to the Vulcan at that point. So that was that was some salvage information, mainly about drones and interusability. Not huge details. This is going to be a lot more. Here we're going to listen to a little bit of talk about the Drake Vulture. This is actually the introduction of this ship. So I thought it'd be kind of cool for us to do, while we're looking at the future of salvage, also kind of look at what they were saying way back when. The very beginning, when they first were introducing this ship. How did they say it would work? What were the selling points? Are they still there? Have they changed their messaging? Why don't we look and find out?
The Vulture is a single-person ship, so it's designed for the solo player. Players that want to get into the salvage career, that's what it's built around, that is its sole purpose.
The inspiration for the ship was from the Dragonfly. You have two arms on Drake Dragonfly, you see them as well on the Vulture. However, this time...
All right, so this was a, it still continues to be, I think, an ongoing debate as to whether it was actually a Dragonfly-inspired design, or if it was the Venture from Eve design. I think the design itself is probably fairly common. Not like a crazy design, a three-piece ship. It certainly does look like a single section of this. It certainly does look like the Venture. Overall, though, I would say it's its own ship because, honestly, the general shape language of a ship is one thing, but these ships are super detailed. They have their own interiors. They have all these little gimmicks that they need to be workable with a player. So, like, at the end of the day, design and shape is one thing, but the full-on details of a ship, I think, are what really define it. And all three of these are quite different when it comes to that regard. Finally tuned into some SC Live after weeks. Hope you're well. Dude, Crouch, how you been, man? How have you been? You been able to play much SC lately? Looks most like a Venture to me. Was a big Venture pilot. The Venture is massive compared to this thing, though, right? The Venture is like 50 meters long or something, or like 80 meters long.
You see them as well on the Vulture. However, this time they have a different purpose, which is dragging in salvage, processing it.
Got a little bit of cargo space to store all the processed salvage or other cargo if you wish. It's designed to sort of sneak in, do a bit of salvage work, process that and move on to the next place rather than something like the Reclaimer, which is just a huge target. But obviously the size of it is, you can't take this little ship up to an Idris and expect to just chomp it like something like the Reclaimer could do. So to give you a quick overview of how the salvage process will work, hopefully. You'll be flying along in your Vulture, you've got great visibility, there's very minimal cockpit struts or screens getting in your way when you're flying around. You'll scan for things you want to salvage, just like you'll be scanning for mining. You come alongside, you've got to then decide whether you want to do like a complete salvage, that is taking all the weapons and ordnance off. So if that's the case, EVA out, carry those items back off the ship, put them in your cargo hold for safekeeping and selling later, get back in your ship. Then it's a process of scraping the hull with the scraper beams to sort of strip the surface off. That all gets processed into commodity. Then it's salvage charges to break apart the hull more.
So essentially the ship cuts up the panels of the wrecks, it drags them in while processing, and then it goes into the second processing stage inside of the ship, where it all gets packed into cubes, just like combine harvesters. At the end, you get a cube of salvage rather than a cube of hay.
Depending on the size of what you want to salvage, it can be quite a time-consuming process. If you're there in the Vulture trying to take apart a Starfarer, it's going to take a long time, but you'll probably do it eventually. But it would be better if you had a Reclaimer or some friends in Vultures to help you do that. Smaller ships like Gladius is probably not worth a Reclaimer's time to go and munch that up, but a Vulture is something that will get a lot of return out of that.
We're hoping that it'll be a really good experience for the player, you know, but it'll be the wide range, won't it? You know, Star Citizen, you're just surrounded by black space, and you come across.
He's so quiet.
I can't imagine it being sort of a clean thing. There's just going to be chaos going on in front of you. and you're there just stripping metal, pulling bits off.
Okay, so that was back in 2018, June 2018. They definitely, all of that is stuff that we've seen, and you will continue to hear this recurring theme of salvage charges throughout all today, which I think must mean that tomorrow when we start seeing hull munching, in some way salvage charges must be included. Because I think it's probably, yeah, in this video, you're going to hear them talk about salvage charges like 3 different times. Yeah, it's actually right now. So, it's definitely going to be in there in some way. Let's listen in more about how that's going to work. I do think that we'll see drones next year. Because I think it was last fall or summer, August or September or something like that, they did confirm that they had a working version of a drone in the sense that they could have an object fly around remote controlled like a drone would be. And they had to get it working in Squadron 42. And because they were doing that, they wouldn't have much work to convert it over to Star Citizen as well. That's just what they were saying, though. That was John Crew last year, I believe. Sad that Munching won't make it in this year. Yeah, probably not. We are seeing hull munching tomorrow. I'm not sure to what extent, but it's an early prototype of it. Wonder if they'll balance the munching with the scraping. Right now, scraping a medium ship already fills up your cargo. Yeah. And then you also have components you want to take out. Like the Vulture is not really going to be able to do much long distance. I think the Vulture is going to always have a cargo ship with it out in the verse. All right, let's listen to what they have to say about these salvage charges.
The salvage charges. Are the salvage charges something that's actually like manufactured on the Vulture? Is it something the Vulture can make and then you take them out? Or is it something that you have to stock up, before you go out? What can you tell us about the salvage charges?
They're just essentially ammunition that you stock up on before you go out somewhere. So they're just loaded in. It sort of gives you a fixed amount of stuff you can do. So you have to pick your battles, so to speak, but it's not such a small amount that it's one ship and that's your lot. You have to sort of, you're not going to be able to go there and chop up 30 Idrises with a Vulture's worth of, you probably need more salvage charges than could physically fit in the Vulture to do that.
And why would you want to use a salvage charge instead of just shooting the ship and trying to break it apart into bigger pieces?
So salvage charges do it cleanly, the same as the claw on the Reclaimer. The claw does the salvage charges job for the Reclaimer, but the Vulture doesn't have that, so it has this and sort of even.
Okay, that's a big detail, right? If salvage charges are meant to replace the claw, then we can probably assume both those things would be working with hull munching. That's the way I see it. I think hull munching is the only form of salvage that they've talked about that would require the claw. So if the salvage charges are equivalent, that means that the claw is likely, or the salvage charges are likely going to be a form of, or part of the hull munching. Having a cargo ship kind of defeats the purpose of it being a starter solo ship. I don't mean it shouldn't require the cargo ship. But if you want to go further, you should need it, Like a prospector, you don't need to have a cargo ship with you to get the most out of it. But having a cargo ship allows you to always be out there and transport way more minerals back and forth. So, I think you should be able to make do without a cargo ship, but if you really want to make it work, then you bring along a cargo ship. Yeah, I don't know what they mean by the claw doing the munching. Maybe the claw just kind of squeezes things to break them. I'm not sure. Let's listen in more though.
EVA salvage will use those as well, rather than you just like with a tiny little claw cropping away at stuff. It's the clean way of doing it, so it cuts down those breakpoints. If you're shooting it with your ship, you're going to be causing damage to the ship. You're going to be destroying the surface of the ship. So when you're scraping it, you're going to be getting much less returns. The penetration of the weapons probably will be damaging stuff on the inside. When bits break off because you've shot them, they're probably going to cause little mini explosions. You see all the squibs go down the wings it's all just deteriorating your return. So yes, you can go along and shoot it with your ship, but it's not going to be as good a return as just doing it properly with salvage charges.
Gotcha. And the first question that came in from the live chat was about how can we salvage something that's larger than a vulture? I'm assuming the salvage charges play a big part in that.
Yeah, so those break it down into the bite-sized chunks that the vulture can manage.
Okay. Now, by entry level, do you mean it will be a $45 Star Citizen game package? No, that question's for me, guys. Don't worry about that. I'll take the money. No, entry level means this is the beginning of that profession. This profession. This is meant when you're ready to dedicate your life to, or at least a portion of your life to the career of salvaging. And when I want to be a salvage, this is your entry level. You start here, and then you progress up to something like the Reclaimer. Because the Reclaimers, everybody's seen the Reclaimer. I would assume everybody's seen a Reclaimer by this time. You can't, everywhere you look, you see a Reclaimer in the game right now, which is fine because it's a lovely looking ship, and I don't mind at all. But this is meant to be your stepping stone. You start here, and then you move your way up after you've built yourself a career and resources and capabilities to the Reclaimer. Let's see. A lot of questions about stats, things like how long is it, how tall is it, what's the cargo capacity. I am going to.
All right. I think that's what we got on salvage charges, but they might talk about it a little bit more here. Let us see.
Salvages.
Now, obviously, salvage gameplay is not, it's not complete. It's obviously not implemented in game. So the focus right now, as far as those kind of systems are on mining, coming in Alpha 3.2. What do we imagine, knowing full well that this can change over the course of development? How long are we currently thinking it would take to salvage something like a Hornet?
That's a Tony question.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's not going to be a point and click, come back 5 minutes later job.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. I figured I would try it, guys, but there's the ship systems and there's the game systems, and while they certainly interact and stuff, they are usually two different design principles. So when we get closer to actually implementing salvage in game, you can be sure that we'll have a whole one of these with Tony and whoever's working on salvage to answer salvage specific.
I don't think we got that. Which now I kind of really want it. If anybody that can get this in front of Jared can you please make that happen now? How great would it be to hear about the industrial gameplay we're getting right now with the people who are building the economy next to them to see a realistic exchange between them about what they're thinking, how they're thinking this stuff can work together. All right, what else do we got here on the salvage docket? This video, we got a lot of stuff from this video. Let's see.
Salvage charges. Does the advent of salvage charge mean that we can salvage without the use of something like the vulture or the reclaimer? Can we take salvage charges out in the back of our freelancer and then use them and bring stuff back to the freelancer?
So in theory, yes. They obviously enable you to start splitting bits off ships. So there's nothing to stop you using them to do that. If you've got a way of getting those bits back into your hull, there's nothing to stop you doing that either. Where it all sort of starts falling apart is when you come to go sell those bits. So if in a salvage ship, it's all been nicely processed, maybe it's been refined, depending on the ship, maybe it hasn't. So that dictates the value and where you're going to sells it. If you rock up in your freelancer with, oh, hey, I've got the tail fin of a Hornet here.
Yeah.
Unprocessed, damaged. If we give you the ability to sell that, it's going to be nowhere near the effectiveness of turning up in your vulture with, hey, I've got 12 SAU of processed hornets. Give me all the money.
Yeah, because I don't know in the concept art, like in the stuff that'll be released like today, if we actually we don't really show the interior of the cargo hold, but we have basically figured it all out, and there is basically there's the nod to the reclaimer where you can actually see inside all the processing equipment, and then basically it all gets
compacted. It's like a big
processed and compacted into a box in it, and basically it pops out a box ready for you to just go and sell, essentially.
The reclaimer sort of, we're not quite sure how the reclaimer is going to fill up its hold, whether it's going to use a similar bigger version of that, or whether it's just going to be raw cubes of compressed metal. But there's the ability to have those two different states of, here's processed metal in a box, easy, nice, ready to go, ready to sell, or whether it's just like the raw scrap compressed in a box. Like, you take that to a manufacturing plant, or you can perhaps sell it to a refinery, or you can get your reclaimer to even process it more into those boxes. So you have the options there to change the output.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that was, just a little bit of like, I guess, can you salvage without a salvage ship, which we already know you can. And they were talking about this. When was this? This is also 2018. So they were going over that pretty consistently as well, that you can salvage without a salvage ship, but it won't be as easy. You're asking about capital-sized guns and missile launchers. I don't think you're going to be able to take those with too many different ships. You're probably going to want an SRV or some kind of a tractor beam to just drag them back to wherever you're going to sell it from, because those guns are bigger than ships themselves. Dante, thank you for the sub, gifting that out to Macton. Appreciate you. Hope you're having a good day. Might explain the nerf down on the gun prices. Well, I do think that the guns should be worth a decent amount. Like, guns are what sell, right? In all the games that you go and play, if you're looting stuff, generally what makes you most of your money when you're selling back to a shopkeeper or something are the guns and weapons you find. So it makes sense. It works. I do really, I'm super excited to see though how valuable water, fuel, and oxygen will be. Because it's space. Those things gotta be valuable, right? So we'll eventually get to them talking about siphoning in this game for salvaging. And I think that's gonna be really cool to see if they can do a lot to make that more strategic and a little bit more fun. They should be worth more than 1/25th of the cost of a new one. Yeah, I agree. I agree about that. I've been playing a little bit of Cyberpunk lately and doing some looting. And that's kind of where I'm getting my ideas about how the looting should work and like weapons being worth the money. I realize I'm selling out rifles constantly trying to make some money back. And they sell for super cheap, but I don't think it's 1/25th like that. I want to say the guns, you buy them for like maybe 800, 1200 credits. Maybe more than that, like 2000 credits, but they sell for like 400, 500, which is like 10%. It's not quite 1/25th. Like I'll take a 10% resale value. Because some of these weapons are crazy big. Like the guns on some of these like size 4 guns, size 5 guns, they'd be like 125,000 credits. I'd be freaking fine selling that out for 10,000, 12,000 credits. Do I think they will have different designs for the oxygen and water storage tanks, or will they stick with the boxes like everything else? Actually, they've shown some different concepts for storage compartments. So we've already seen the dangerous chemicals kind of storage. They're going to have storage that is temperature sensitive, stuff that's pressure sensitive, I think. So like there are fluid containers for sure that we've seen. You can kind of see the props lying around in some hangars and stuff. And there will be things that you have to pay attention to when you're transporting the more valuable stuff. You make things valuable and you make ships money sinks. I don't get why CIG won't do this. Boats in real life are money sinks. We'll get there. They're going to have a lot of fun with that during the beta phase, I think. BG3 is awful for reselling looted stuff. Also feels like that is how it is in all games as long as you can remember. It depends on what awful means. I think 10% of the value you would buy it for is reasonable. If you do enough of the playing, you know, shouldn't be able to just get by looting. You gotta have a job. Get a job! The GII events are good. They create their own salvage with ERTs. They have been having a blast with those. They have been going very well. I had a good time a couple weeks ago running one of those. But yeah, we do those pretty regularly now. So if you guys like salvage or bounty hunting, we combine them both in an event every week. Check out our org. What's the next video here? Oh, this is a fun one. Okay, so we're going to hear a lot about... Let me make sure. Yes, we're going to hear a lot about salvage in this video, like a lot. They will tell us some pretty useful details. This is May 29th, 2020. This is kind of where you get an idea of the 4 different segments of salvage, which are siphoning, stripping, munching, and component retrieval. So I think that happens later in this video, but for the beginning, we will start by talking to Todd Pappy. As you know, we always get some good info when we talk to Todd. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Spoke very clearly in the question thread, so we're going to tackle this one head on. We're going to talk about salvage and a couple game systems that are related to salvage, involved in salvage, twisted up inside salvage. We're going to start the conversation off where most things design related start with our own Todd Pappy. Todd, how you doing, man?
Hello, sir. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you for talking to me from your palatial office. If you remember.
Yeah, the camera adds some depth to it.
You have to read YouTube comments to get that joke, and we don't recommend it. All right, so Todd, let's talk about salvage here. Let's talk about the basics. How do we see overall? How do we see salvage working in the persistent universe?
We really break it down into 4 different types. So there's hull scraping, which would be actually removing hull, you know, or basically the paint off of the hull. Then there's components, basically salvaging, taking out the components that are placed actually within the objects, so coolers, power plants, computers, so on and so forth. Then there's the maw, which would be actually crunching up the ships and disposing of them that way. And then there's actually siphoning of different oxygen or fuel, data, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. We've talked about some of those aspects before. The hull scraping is like the inverse of repair. The last time we talked about it, like like
exactly.
a repair beam would be shot at the ship and like put it back together, and then a hull scraping would be the reverse of that.
Yeah, think of it almost like you're applying Bondo, you're taking away Bondo, you know, for like car repairs and stuff like that. So
okay, and then a component retrieval, it's like FPS. You fly over, you go inside the wreck, you pull the components. Maw, I'm guessing, is the reclaimer, is something like the reclaimer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Siphoning was the one that I'm not familiar with. Talk to me a little bit more about siphoning. Siphoning what?
Well, I mean, for example, we have tanks, you know, so like quantum fuel tanks, hydrogen fuel tanks. Obviously, in the future, we'll have data associated with computers, and you know, so if you scan something, then think of it like a hard drive. You're taking information off of a hard drive. So, or you're siphoning out oxygen, or you're siphoning out, you know, basically the fuel. So then, you know, you find these wrecks, and to me, oxygen is going to be, oxygen and water are going to be one of the two, you know, kind of most useful things in space. So
it's Mega Man all over again.
Right. So then you want to take those, and so then in the future you're not having to pay for these things, or you know.
Okay.
If you can get them for free, then why not?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I understand that, you know, all of these, you know.
Okay. A little bit of data news there. That was kind of cool. So I never considered that data would also be something that's there, but that also makes it sound more of an immersive sim kind of style than a regular arcadey game style, in the sense that he's saying, rather than adding a mechanic where you press a button and salvage all the stuff, if it happens to be a ship that has data on board, there should be a way to take that off, whether the ship is, or it is a derelict that you might be salvaging. Same goes for oxygen, water, fuel. So that'd be cool then to know maybe if there's a specialized ship that's needed for that. So what if you have a freelancer max, tons of fuel, you come across a Gladius, ran out of fuel, could you technically siphon the fuel from the max into the Gladius because your friend is just giving you some fuel? Or do you need a specialized ship to go and do the refueling yourself? I personally like the first option because that's I think a little more freeform, gives people more freedom, and it's how they've done a lot of the stuff so far. Like they were saying with salvaging, you don't need the ship, you just need the tools that need to be able to blow that stuff up to separate it. You like the shipbreaker's concept of component removal. You should have to do hull scraping to get the nuts and bolts before you can remove components and weapons. That would limit the gameplay though, because then if you just happen to be, like, let's say you're an explorer, you're not a salvager, and you're out exploring a moon and you come across a shipwreck, you should still be able to take something valuable from that ship. Let it be a computer component, or maybe a power drive that's really valuable, or some alien technology in the shields. It would suck if you couldn't get that because you hadn't hull scraped the stuff away already. What's up, Abdi? How you doing, dude? Having a good time here talking about some salvage. It's always a good time talking about salvage. There's a lot of information out there on this. Holston Coop, dude, good to see you. Holding it down on Twitch, Mod Gang. Is it just you, or does this guy always strike you as the late Ray Stevenson long-lost twin brother? I actually don't know what Ray Stevenson looks like. Should be able to nab data as an explorer from another wrecked explorer. Yes, definitely. Have they ever talked about what could be done with the data salvaged or stolen? Is it supposed to be strictly gather up data and sell it, or is there some data analysis that can be done with it? I'm assuming it will be data in the form of mainly of waypoints, possibly of survey data, of locations, maybe messages, but I think mostly it will be like location data, and you can just transfer that to other people and stuff, maybe. Would be interesting if they could mix it up. A hacker or skilled tech could enter the ship and unlock components, including guns, or straight up grunt could try to cut them free using a cutting laser. You do have to unlock the components to take them out. So like if the ship is still running, I think you'll be locked out unless you can get to a computer or doing just that. For salvage, maybe you will have to cut out the restraints. It's actually that could be a good complication. Let's continue on with this one though.
Different aspects of salvaging, they all have a number of prerequisites, things that are being worked on right now that will make salvaging possible. Talk to us about some of the prerequisites that are being worked on right now.
Well, so for hull scraping, we've got the damage tech that Ali had done a long time ago, and there's some persistence that would need to be done with that, in order to make sure that we're spawning the ships the way that we need to spawn them, and because right now we don't save out all of that information. So there would need to be some thought process and some work done on that. For the hull scraping, obviously we need to create the weapons or items that you can use to actually scrape. And then
Sorry, that's actually a really good point. He just pointed out that persistence was a big thing for getting hull scraping in, and that proved out with 318. We saw persistence kind of be packaged up with hull scraping, and they both came at the same time.
For component retrieval, it's actually getting the items in, getting them placed within ships, getting power running, getting pipes working the way that we need it to work, so that so you can take it out of ships, but at the same time, when you're actually in the ship, you have the multi-crew gameplay of actually removing those items or switching them out on the fly if you're flying around, or even if you're in battle. The maw, that one to me is going to be based off of the way that we break up our ships anyways, and kind of then figuring out, do we need to have smaller detonators on those to blow up those things and then create different shards, or like there just needs to be some real thought gone into the maw and how we're going to crunch things up and get that. And then siphoning, it's basically at that point in time making sure the room system's working the way that we need it to work, so that we can actually pull things out. Making sure that we can actually put things in too, so like getting our life support working the way that we need it to work. For the fuel and those tanks, it's basically just making sure that we have a entry point so that we can actually pull things out.
Okay. And I understand a couple of things.
So that's like, we've got a lot of that stuff. We got the damage system, we got persistence for the hull scraping. Obviously with the hull munching, we're getting a prototype shown of that tomorrow. We've got, what was the other thing he just said? Oh, we've got life support undergoing work right now. We've seen that in the works with engineering gameplay, so that would be air. With fuel, we saw refueling come in the game, so they started adding fuel ports to all ships, so we got that. We don't have water mechanics of any sort in the ship itself. We don't know anything about that. And then we've also seen, obviously, with the tractor beam, the ability to remove components. So we actually are really... We're very advanced when it comes to salvage gameplay. With mining having their components, with the gadgets, subcomponents, components, different refining styles, I guess you could say. And then probably within a year and a half, I would say it sounds like we'll have hull munching of some sort. Granted, whatever we find out tomorrow. And then possibly some form of siphoning when engineering gameplay comes in and life support's actually working. We could see both of the largest industrial gameplay loops pretty advanced by the end of next year. That would be mining and salvaging would both be very advanced. Refining would probably be in the game by then, which bounces off of mining and connects it with cargo hauling. Top of that, we'd have engineering, which they're working on right now. Bounty hunting V2. A lot of the stuff that I was actually really hoping would be at a more finished state by the end of this year. Of course, as always, we have to push expectations back a year. But it's the same energy I was feeling at the beginning of this year, and that is that they are getting quite a bit of this core gameplay into the game in small little bits, and because the game is just not overall that enjoyable right now, it's hard to notice, but it's coming together pretty well. And hopefully with the star map, we start to see savable waypoints and things like that, bringing the data aspect, the exploration aspect into this gameplay. Yeah, not all ships have removable components. This stuff, these gameplay systems won't apply to the entire game for a while. Even after they've been brought into the game, ships will have to be updated. Gold standards will have to be reconsidered. It's going to be a long time before they are fully complete and we're at the beta stage. But its implementation, they're doing not bad. Just a little long. What do we think the timeline is for SC to formally reach beta? It's a topical question. Curious if they've ever touched on bigger picture aspirations beyond alpha patches. They've started to mention the B word every once in a while the last couple of years. I'd say the last year. I'm thinking we're still like 3, 4, 5 years away from a beta. Probably 5 minimum. Like, we've got a while until we're at beta. Feature complete? Yeah. I mean, if we're talking base building, farming, the full quantum economy, yeah, I think that's like 4 or 5 years out. Technically, we have refining now. Don't see ship-based refining to get that different from space station-based. It is supposed to be pretty different, actually. So the ship-based refining is supposed to be done more in the scale of like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. And it's supposed to be much more active. So you're actually refining whatever it is that is in the ship. It's going to be kind of like as applied as mining or salvaging would be. So we do have the station refining, but having a ship that can do refining out there at the site means that you can have people who are there on site mining, pass those minerals from that ship to the refining ship right next to it, pass those minerals, those refined goods from the refining ship to a cargo hauler, which can then fly out to a station to sell. That's an entire operation with multiple disciplines, a bunch of people. You got your security escorts out there and everything. Like, you're talking a 10 to 15 person operation where everybody's doing something different, all online in real time. That's the dream of Star Citizen for a lot of people. And once ship refining is in the game and we can sell the cargo from other ships, we've got it. We're really close. So I'm excited to see what happens with ship-based refining. They haven't talked a ton about it, but we know they're working on it. We always say 5 years. We do. It is true, we do. Move box from point A to point B, you're guessing? We shall see. Just move boxes. To you, ship refining is important for systems with no infrastructure. Absolutely. Indeed. Refining services will be good and plenty in Pyro. You know, I think one of these videos has information about refining. Could have sworn refuel and repair. Hold on. Pretty sure we... That's how I do a lot of research. Stations have several different refining methods, as they have space for several different pieces of equipment. Yeah, you'll be limited to one type, probably. Let's see. I think we're looking for, what's it called? The Expanse, right? Where is that? There we go. Expanse glance. So let's see what they have to say about it. It's a little detour. We'll cut this out of the final video.
The Expanse is the starter ship in the sort of refinery tier. We have refineries on other ships, such as the Starfarer, but they're more specialised into purely doing fuel. Where the Expanse has a bonus over them is it has what we call reactors on them, and at a very simplistic level, one reactor is one refinery process, and the Expanse has 6 of them on board. So it allows you to potentially do 6 entirely different refinery processes simultaneously, or for maximum output you can do 6 of all the same type and really sort of improve your bandwidth, so to speak, of refinery. We picked Myth because it sort of fits that industrial aesthetic.
You've got the rounded front nose of the ship, but then what you'll notice is you've got the not massive, but you've got the big shoulders.
Sorry, we're looking for function, not art. We want function. See, so I don't think we really have much info on refining, now that I think of it. But yeah, I guess we'd have to wait and see what they have to actually say about it. See if they got something here.
Based version of that. If you think refineries now, refinery is all done at stations, and in the future we'll have the Expanse in game, and people can do refinery now on the station. So is that the starter, or is the Expanse the starter? It's sort of what you make of it. Obviously, with station-based ones, you don't have as much flexibility as you will with the Expanse, and I'm sure in the future we'll have larger refinery ships. But also it's there to sort of gate the progression in some way. Like a lot of people, if you think of like most RTSs, you have like your tech tree of maybe not vehicles, but the buildings you can build or the troops you can make. And it's sort of similar to that in that we don't want you to go straight in at the top, ideally. We want you to build your way through it. But yeah, I'm just waffling now. But
waffling.
completely lost my train of thought because there was a car going outside banging down the road.
No, I think I get what I get what you're saying. There is a progression. There is a progression intended in many instances, but at the same time, there are situations that we envision in this game that we're building where you might want 2 smaller things as opposed to 2 larger things. It's like that. So like anything else in game development, there's really no simple black and white answer to the question. It is a situationally based question. There will be some professions and some things where, yeah, it'll be a very clear start here, then go here, then go here.
Maybe
then
mining,
go here.
maybe salvage. Then you bring it to your refinery, you refine it to the processed goods, and once you have it in the processed goods, you bring it to your crafting facility, crafting ship, crafting
this isn't gonna have it.
and then you
All right,
create.
I'm not going to be able to find anything good on refining. It's a good question, though. We will hopefully hear more about refining in the short term here, because they mentioned it on the monthly reports, but I do think it's going to be more applied in ships. I think it'll be more of an active type of gameplay. They don't want to bring in refining and have it fall second to salvage and mining too much. I think they're trying to make everything different but equal. So hopefully we'll hear more about that soon, but let's get back to salvage and what Todd Pappy is telling us is the goods of the ICU. Calling out Mrs. Tomat. She's just telling our dog to not bark so much. She likes being on the stream, though. It's hard to stop her.
Actually being worked on right now. The obviously we've talked about the conversion to the physicalized components and everything before, and we're going to talk to John Crew after you about where that's at and how that's going. But power would also be a prerequisite. I understand that we're working on our revamp of power system right now as well.
Well, yeah, it's basically we got power system to a certain point, and it was workable for so long, but now that we're really getting into the multi-crew ships and getting into that thought process, there's fundamental things that just need to be finished off in order to make sure that it will work right, so that, let's say, a power plant, or a fuse in the ship goes down, a player needs to go and replace it. But so we need to get that working, we have pipes where power runs anyways, and we have that, but we also don't have, in all the ships, we don't have the physicalized components in there. And so that's one of the major factors that we're going in and doing right now. Then with the power...
Again, this is, when people say it's always talk and they don't actually ever show anything, this is literally 2020, all talk, right? Just talking about what they need to do to get this done. They did it. 319, physicalized components. Not all ships have them, but this stuff is starting to be done in the game in much better ways than it used to be. A lot of the stuff we're seeing just this year now has been in the making since all the way back then with all this talking. So yeah, I think it's important to, like, we complain a lot about them saying these things from way back then and they're still not being in game. I think it's important to also point out when they've said these things and stayed consistent with the messaging and gotten it to us in the way that they said it needed to be done, because that kind of proves out that when they do come out and say, hey, this is a prerequisite for this, we need to get it done, we can at least rely on the fact that, yeah, maybe once we see that prerequisite done, we'll start to see something else that we've been expecting. So I like that when I hear this kind of stuff.
In the way that it needs to work. We're making sure that it works in ships, but also in environments, so like space stations or even, on the planet in our outposts and items like that, so that, it's just one cohesive system. So when you understand, oh, that's a power plant, if I take that away, then things turn off, we want that to be very, very clear to the player.
Gotcha. Well, I think we're going to put a call into John and Dan and talk a little bit more about the current work on the power system, the current work on the ship component system. It okay if I call you back if I have any more questions when I'm done with them?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, maybe I'll see you in a few minutes. Take care, man.
Cool. Later.
All right, thank you so much, Todd. Now we're going to Vehicle Director John Crew to find out what's going on with our physicalized vehicle.
If there was no improvement or progress, you wouldn't have spent a penny on the project and would still call it a tech demo. It is kind of tech demo-y, but there is progress, yeah. Like, people will say a lot about Star Citizen. One thing that is objectively false, though, is that they're not getting anything done. So I don't think it's everything that we want. Definitely not at the pace we want, but there's work getting done. Tools are supposed to help with the speed that dev though. Indeed. And they've been spending a lot of time on their tools. It is fun to place, Dante. It is. I think people are just looking for the fun to be more consistent, you know? Some might accuse you of white knighting. Escape, I'm glad you've been liking the content lately. These deep dive streams have been fun. I like going through the history of the development. Can't wait to play Starfield, just a few weeks more till it's out. Sorry CIG, but you took too long. No problem with playing both. That's what I'll be doing. I can't wait for Starfield either. But I will still be playing Star Citizen. Ron Burgundy, thank you for the sub, by the way. 6 months on. Here's that money Jeff owes you. Ah, Jeff! My heart goes out to you. And that, of course, gets a raffle started on Twitch. ! Join if you want to get in that raffle. Maybe get some points towards the next giveaway that we're doing over there. Back into the conversation. Let's see what they're saying.
How you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're talking salvage this month. We know that vehicle components are an integral part of the component retrieval aspect of salvage. So tell us where we're at. We've been hearing about this for a while now.
Yeah, so lots of bits in motion on the vehicle content side and the vehicle features side. First up, the props team have been working on all the components, so you will have seen them in all the shops. So there's literally hundreds of vehicle items being made or have already been made, and they're just doing the work to make them all fully release ready, because obviously it's one thing seeing them in the shop, it's another thing seeing them all embedded in the vehicles. On the actual vehicle content side, any vehicle that has been released in the last 18 months, 2 years, players will have noticed that they have all these hatches and component cupboards, for lack of a better word, popping up in their ships. So we build them in at production point now, or concept phase, so we know where they all go. And then we're going, at the same time, we're going back through the older ships. Like, I think one of the first ones we went back to was the Retaliator, to carve out the spaces for them in the geometry. So if you look at the Retaliator now, you see all these items in the ship. So the props is one bit, the vehicle content is the other, and then the last bit is the engineering side. So at the moment, if you see a component in a ship, take the Retaliator for example, those are not the actual items, they're just brushes placed in there to validate that the space is all correct, it's all going to work, you've got enough access to it. Some ships, such as the Carrack, actually, when you open some of the hatches, they do have items in there. Those aren't brushes, they're the actual items attached to your ship. But because of various limitations that I'll get onto in a second, those are actually attached to the exterior of the vehicle, because that's just how all our systems work currently. So whilst they're inside the ship, they're actually outside the ship. And when you're inside the ship, you can't interact with anything outside the ship and vice versa. So we need to solve that. So scheduled for next quarter, the vehicle tech team are going to be working on a way to place those items physically inside the object containers of the ships, and then they will all automatically link up to all the external systems we need. And that will allow us and allow you to change your items inside the ship, see them visually change, and actually all be hooked up, which is, of course, a precursor to salvaging, because you need to salvage stuff that is inside the ships.
Right.
So those are the three big areas that are sort of in progress on our side.
Those are.
That is, and that's again what we've been seeing in 3.19. Not all ships have access to that though, and that's one of the big problems with Star Citizen. Is once they get these things online, then they have to go through and add it to all the ships. Tech debt, it hurts. But like, that was a big problem. Here, clearly it was a very big hurdle that they had to get over, and they finally gotten it fixed. So I'm happy to see that. I think that was the bigger deal when they added 3.19 and they showed off physicalized components. I still think that it was a little bit overlooked how big of a deal that was, that it was finally working. But as you can see here, back in 2020, they were still trying to get it done, and it took 3 more years for us to finally see it happening in game. New to Star Citizen and love the salvage gameplay loop in your Reclaimer. Can't wait to hear more about hull munching and really looking forward to hearing about the Reclaimer getting its rework. Did they also say there was going to be a rework talked about tomorrow? A PU is coming with Starfield. That's been kept on the download though, as it's getting co-op and multiplayer, and they're getting a PU too. Sorry. Why sorry? That would be actually really cool if Starfield ended up being multiplayer. I don't think it will be. I really doubt that Bethesda would go and do another multiplayer game after Fallout 76, especially when basically Xbox's next year is relying on this game to do well. But that would be very interesting. Does that mean we can manually swap them? Now you have items in the open spaces of ships and have no way to store them. Yeah, so the idea is you'll be able to manually swap them. You can do it in some of the newer ships, but it's not universal just yet. Starfield versus Star Citizen discussion gets really tiring, to be honest. I'm going to be making a video on it in a couple weeks, so I hope you're looking forward to more of it. It'll be a little more nuanced, though. It's not just going to be a straight comparison. You likely play both. Just got to cut something from your life to have time for both games. Got to have time. Got to get rid of work or wife or sleep. Who needs sleep? Right? Come on. Spend that time playing games. It's healthier. Let's see how many walk when it comes out in 5 weeks. However many walk, I don't think really matters. I think people will always play whatever game is interesting them in the moment. If you own a game, like I own Halo Infinite, I'm probably going to end up playing it again at some point. I don't think just because I stopped playing it for now, it's gone forever. Bethesda don't need to do an online game. Yeah, I don't think they do either. Their strength is just in a really good RPG. It would be dumb for them to focus on multiplayer aspects, in my opinion. Because their RPG, their single player RPGs are legendary. You know? You have no interest in Starfield, but to each his own. It has no co-op or multiplayer. There is a push for the modding community to try and make a co-op mod. Yeah, I would wonder why they wouldn't mention that it has co-op if it had co-op planned. Only allows 3 people at a time, you yourself and you. While Star Citizen allows 100 per server or more. Yeah, I mean, a good games both. All right, let's get back to the discussion though of Salvage, which won't be in Starfield, so I actually don't know how we got onto that topic. More details on this though.
Are all in progress, while other teams are working on the power systems and everything, the pipe system that will make all these components actually function and make removing them and putting them in actually mean something and change something to the ship. John, thank you so much. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on over to Dan Truffin and learn more about that power system now. So I'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, John. Now we are going to a man who needs no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. Dan Truffin, designer extraordinaire from Frankfurt. I don't know. Dan, how you doing, man?
Doing really good. Working from home, so
yeah,
it's fun.
Aren't we all? All right, so we're talking Salvage today. We've talked to Todd. He's given us kind of the overview. We've talked to John, who's talked a bit about the physicalized components and ships and stuff. And now we're talking to you about a power. But I have a feeling from talking to you before that what we're going to talk about is more than just power. What are you working on right now?
Yeah, it's definitely more than just power. So when we started building our ships and building our environments, we started building with what we call the pipe system. And this system, while it did its job pretty well, it's already a bit old and we're only using it right now for limited things. What we're trying to build is a system that encompasses all the resource generation and how you control items. And so when we're talking resource generation, I'm talking power, I'm talking CPU, I'm talking fuel, I'm talking coolant, I'm talking any type of other resource.
Right, this is a
future ammo and all
this is stuff. They called this segment Salvage, but it feels like this is going to be a lot about resource management, which is a lot of engineering. So this will be some insight into the engineering gameplay that they're talking about getting into the game right now, but we still don't see just yet.
So we're trying to build stuff in one component that rules them all. There's like any item will have that component and knows how to use any resource it needs and how to generate other resources that other items might need, or transfer them from one resource to another and generate heat and all this stuff. So it's all going to be built into one place rather than having multiple different systems that handle it differently. So it keeps stuff cleaner. It allows us to work faster, and at the same time we're going to try to make this work a lot better with what you see is what you get editor, so people can actually link all of these connections for resources in the actual visual editor of the ship, rather than making it into dry XML database somewhere or in a data tool, which is very hard to imagine how the thing will actually function. So all of this stuff is gonna be made in the editor, is gonna speed up production for ships. And obviously the ships are gonna start becoming way more alive, because now once let's say you don't have fuel, you can't generate power, and you don't have power, you don't have CPU, you can't generate shields. So all of these things are you're gonna start having cascade failures, and you're gonna have to run there, repair the item, turn it back online, or route power through a different relay nodes. So all of this stuff is pretty much going to bring the game alive. It's going to make the engineer profession be a valuable thing on the ship. So without an engineer, how we call it is, if you don't have a good engineer on your ship, you pretty much, it doesn't matter how good your ship is, you're going to have issues. No one can.
Sorry ahead of time for that.
A good engineer, or you're going to fly it for a bit until you get some damage, and then you're screwed.
So if it's not so we're not calling it the power system, because it sounds like it's more than that. What are we calling it?
Right now, the running name is resource generation and item control.
Okay, and what stage of that work are you in right now?
So right now the design has been done. All of the directors have seen it and they're okay with it. They think it's going to do the job. We did a bit of prototyping and are probably going to do a bit more prototyping later on. But right now we're in a phase where we usually do the technical documentation. This is where the programmers sit together and try to imagine all the classes they need, all of the structure of the code, all of the architecture of the code. Since this is a system that's going to affect so many things in the game, this needs to be done properly and done properly from the beginning. So the coders are building this, then goes to all the lead programmers, all the technical directors, and they read all of that and approve and try to make alteration to make sure it doesn't change stuff, and it's scalable in the future, and it's efficient to run. So this is where we're at. Once this gets done and gets approved, we move over to actually building this thing properly.
So this would be one of those times when I say, 2020. They were trying to do prototyping and stuff. They only just started doing that really in the last year. So it took them a lot longer than they thought, which is what happens with a lot of things. We still haven't seen this, but I am expecting to hear more about it, at least at CitizenCon this year, if not earlier.
So it sounds like you got quite a bit of work ahead of you.
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your update. I think we're gonna go back to Todd and get kind of an overview of how this all fits together.
Todd.
Oh, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
A little summary of everything we've learned.
Back. Todd, how you doing? We've talked to John. We've talked to Dan. You laid out the basic tenets of the four aspects of salvage. Without putting a date on it or a time on it, I want to see maybe lay out the salvage roadmap for us. What's how do we see this going forward?
So right now, we're working on power, and we're basically getting that working the way that it's supposed to be working, so it's scalable. And then from there, we're working on getting all the items placed in the ships, and obviously with our catalog of ships, that takes a while. So those things are being worked on in tandem right now. And then from there, we'll figure out, okay, with hull scraping, when do we start on that, and kind of work through a lot of those things. So with that, those have always been kind of in Chris's mind, my mind, Tony's minds. Those are really the first, ideas of what salvage is. So then it'll just be, okay, do we want to release the components, aspect first, or do we want to, release hull scraping, with the components, and say that is salvage as a whole? But no matter what, I think it'll just be us figuring out, okay, hey, here, this is our base salvage, and then we'll continue to iterate on it, much like we did with mining, where we put out, an idea of, hey, this is salvage, or this is mining, and then we introduced FPS mining, and from there, we've done other adjustments to like volatile mining, so on and so forth. So it'll be kind of following the same cadence that, or salvage will be following the same cadence that we've done in mining.
Cool. So this sounds like a lot of dependencies, but things are in motion right now then.
Yeah, we are working on aspects of it, but
dependencies.
Just saying, okay, hey, that team is fully focused on it. No, that team is fully focused right now on basically getting power working the way that.
All right, Todd, thank you so much, man. We'll let you go.
Thanks, dude. All right, so that was, I mean, we basically have seen that roll out as has been said. That wasn't a bunch of new information, but a little review of how they want to keep going about it. Add on that first base layer, which was hull scraping, and then go from there. What time does SC put out the video today? It comes out tomorrow. Yeah, Thursdays and Fridays. Tomorrow is a salvage update, yes. Don't like this guy, he's just hot air out of his mouth. What would you say is the hot air? Everything that he just said in this video is what we saw. Like back here, he was talking about the prerequisites for getting in the different forms of salvage, and that's how it's been laying out. I don't know, I feel like Todd is one of the more reliable people to listen to when we talk about the development of the game. Why is he a joke? What is it that he's done that you feel doesn't is hot air? Will we have a look at the roadmap update? I don't think it's going to be out by the time I'm done with the stream, so I will probably talk about that tomorrow on stream. I do think I'm going to watch those Starfield videos at the end of this, though. That and Starfield has to have a callback to, I would have been an adventurer like you, but I took an arrow to the knee. What is it? I took a plasma blaster to the toe. Now I can't go and vacuum. Okay, this is actually not really going to be all that useful to us. This is just a little update on the salvaging attachment, part of the multi-tool.
Also has two functions. It has salvage and repair. Salvaging allows you to do what we call hull stripping, which is where you can walk up to a ship or vehicle and you can start stripping away the hull that then gets stored in a canister. And that could either be sold on or kept for repair. And what repair is essentially the reverse. If you look at your ship that's been damaged, you can apply what is in the canister, the material that you've gathered in the canister, to any damage that's been done to your ship or vehicle to repair it.
And the obvious visual thing with this is Nick delivered it in yellow originally, but we've pushed him to more the silvery blue. If you find one or you're in a shop, you're like, okay, that's what I need. Pick. There's no confusion.
So that was a very small update. This is actually a really interesting episode of Inside Star Citizen. They go over kind of some of the tools and little I guess they call them weapons. They're not really weapons. They're like weapon-sized tools that you would use for different things, like the tractor beam. They've got an FPS cutter that they show off here, which I'm guessing will be helpful when it comes to hull munching on the personal side, like with an FPS type of weapon. So this is a pretty cool thing. And they also showed door breach charges, which were cool, but none of this stuff is really in game yet, except for the medical tools that we saw here in the tractor beam, which we've seen in ISC but haven't seen in the game. All stuff I'm excited for. And that was just a little update on that. Here we have some more talk about salvage. I'm not really sure what this is going to have. My memory fails me now, but I'm guessing it'll be some interesting details, as this is a newer video. April 2021. Starfield's looks good, but it don't have a reclaimer, so it's not for you. Some of the comments on your stream make me LOL. What do you mean Todd is full of hot air? He's pretty guarded and practical. I would say the same, Abdi. I don't know why Todd would be in that seat. 42 better not be a flop is all you're saying. Yeah, but you just called Todd a joke. You said he's full of hot air. You kind of got to back that up. Like, what is it that he's done that makes him full of hot air more than other people in the on these shows? Tractor beam rifle is going to be fun to mess with. It is. It's going to be fun to throw around some stuff that's a little heavier than these boxes. He is a joke. You can't just keep calling people a joke, man. That's rude. Like, that's not an argument. That's just an insult. Don't insult people in this chat. If he's said something that you feel is a lie and hasn't come out to prove it, then say that in chat. But please don't insult people in our chat. Let's be proper here. Wouldn't the vulture like immediately fill up if it tried to crunch a full hull? Yeah, that's why I'm like, maybe having a cargo ship with you is the best way to make full advantage of the cargo, or of the vulture. Make the Redeemer in Starfield. True. Building ships in Starfield is going to be cool. He was amazing in Rome on HBO and in The Punisher. What? The Punisher? All right. Let's listen to what Johnny... oh, crap. It's not Jessivius. It's like Jessivius or no. Jessivius. I can't remember, but we've been saying his name wrong. Let's listen to what Johnny has to say about Salvage. Maybe this will be interesting.
Are working on repair as a counterpoint to Salvage. It's not quite where Dan's team is. It's a little earlier in the process. So why don't you go ahead and tell us where it is, where we're going, what considerations you guys are currently investigating right now, and just give us what you got about repair.
Sure thing. So yeah, and like you say, we're in earlier stages at the moment. We're still firming up on the design, so everything I say here might not make it to when it actually arrives in the PU. But yeah, essentially salvage and repair. It's the kind of like the first version of salvage that we're actually doing. So what we're calling it internally is it's more like hull stripping. So you're actually going up to ships and vehicles, and you're either stripping away parts of the hull, which lowers its health, it's like its integrity essentially. Visually as well, because it uses the V2 damage map, or that's what we're intending to do. Basically burns it away, takes that material away, and stores it in the canister, even if that's on the, the multi-tool has a material canister, and the larger dedicated salvage tool that we're going to be doing has an even bigger one, so you can store even more of that stuff. And basically, yeah, you can either strip away from the hull, or you can use that material, or you can buy full canisters of material to come and use that as a repair resource as well. So if your ship takes a few hits in combat, you'll be able to pop out cockpit, EVA over to it, get your repair tool out, and kind of fill it in. If you come across, the idea is at least if you come across something like a derelict and your ship's damaged and you don't have any repair resource, you could strip away some of that ship and spray it onto yours. So it's not going to be 100% like, oh, I've just, sprayed this magical, metal substance into the ship again, and it looks like it's brand new. It's going to look a little bit more battle scarred. And the idea is we want to use a different material on that to show, like, look, you've patched this up yourself. It doesn't look like a pristine ship anymore. If you want it to go back to its pristine state and 100% health again, then you're going to have to take it back to a shop to get someone to properly repair it for you.
Interesting. So a little bit to unpack there. So repair is intrinsically tied with salvage. It is basically salvage is one mode, and then you flip the darn thing into reverse and you're in repair in the other mode. But you said something interesting. When you repair your ship, when you run your salvage beam, either from the multi-tool or from the dedicated tool, and we showed some of the dedicated tools recently on ISE, you were there. When you run it past, it doesn't restore your paint job and everything. It's going to be some like third transient state, because we got our pristine ship with its paint intact, and then we've got the damaged ship, as it degrades, wears and tears, whatever happens to the ship, it takes it to the stress point up to when it's about to explode. But then salvage can bring it back, or not salvage, repair can bring it back not just to where it was originally, but to some other third state where it's kind of like unpainted metal or so. That's part of what we're exploring right now.
Yeah. So there's a lot of technical considerations that I don't want to write checks for at the moment because we have to do some. We have to talk with the graphics team. We have to talk with a bunch of different people to make sure that that system will work. But that is what we want to do from design side, if we can, because it does give you that nice visual feedback of like, I've been through a few battles, I've had a few scrapes, and I've patched it up myself because I want to keep going while I'm out. I don't want to go back to a landing zone or anything to get fixed up. So it does give you those, like, it feels cool, right? Like you've been flying around for a while, like I've taken a few hits, but I've scraped through and I'm patching up myself. It looks, I think it'll make a few ships look, battle scarred and awesome. And it also kind of ties into the fact that you might not necessarily be able to restore that part back to its full health again unless you go and either get a replacement for it or you go and get the proper repairs for it as well. So it gives you visual feedback on both sides. Like I've been out and about and had some scrapes, and also this is a little bit weaker than it was to start with.
Gotcha. So what makes now the time to get into this? Because we've talked about repair, I mean, since the beginning of the project, and we carry a lot of ideas forth with us throughout the years. You can go back through Wingman's Hangars and old ATVs and see many of Chris's comments on it throughout the years. But what makes now the time to actually buckle down and start putting things on paper and start actually pushing the process forward?
Well, to be honest, it's been a long time coming, and it's a system that's basically been needed. And the more persistence that we get inside the PU, and the more we want you to be kind of, well, we've got the health system coming in for starters soon, which obviously makes you care about everything you've got, and taking care of all of your items, a lot more important because it's all persistent.
Nope.
So
I don't take any better care about my items. We brought in that system, and I just die more.
If you do get into a few scrapes in the PU, you're not going to just want to, abandon your ship and, die on a planet somewhere. You're going to want to have an option to be able to repair it and, fly out of there. So I think it all just ties into all of the other systems that are coming to the game at the moment, and the fact that it's a system that's been looming for a long time, and this is the starting point for it. Obviously, it expands out when we start looking at ship salvage. There'll be similar systems there where you might be able to use, hull scraping lasers to take that stuff off. But then there's things like the reclaimer with the claw, and you just kind of progress from what we're doing down here all the way up to that. So yeah, this is a really good starting point,
which we will see tomorrow,
for us to just start, noodling around with, playing with, seeing what works, what doesn't, and then, go from there, basically.
I have to imagine you're also in a similar situation to refueling, in that the pyro system is coming and there are fewer rest stops, fewer repair stations along the way, and you're going to need more options to maintain your own ship, because you're not going to have an easy stop-off point to instigate repairs like you have in the standard system.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot more remote and barren, isn't it? And you're going to want to be able to be a bit more self-sufficient than you can be at the moment. So yeah, and I think it even ties into a few things that we want to do down the line too, because we've not even mentioned where we want to take this beyond the hull stripping. Is like eventually we want to be able to, when we get the physicalized ship items inside the ships too, we want this to be able to tie in with that as well. So if someone does target your power plant or whatever and take it out, and you end up just about managing to land your ship somewhere, you want to be able to repair that power plant back up, rather than being completely stranded because you've got no power plant left. So eventually that's to come later. That's probably not going to be in our Tier 0 release, but later down the line, that's certainly something we want to do too. And it does tie into that whole self-sufficiency thing.
So where do you go from here? It's obviously don't put like a date. Yeah, we're gonna have repair on December, whatever. But what's the process like from here? From here forward?
So where we're at in terms of from a design point of view?
Like in the overall pipeline. If you imagine the overall getting repair into the game pipeline, where are we at in this pipeline? What's still left to do?
So we're still early. We've got the design stubbed out on paper, which we've been going through with game directors like Rich Tyra. So we've been working on that with him. We've been trying to come up with what we call a functional design as well, which is essentially a fancy name for basically working out the numbers in Excel for a first, bounce pass on, the stripping rates and stuff, and how it degrades the health on ships and everything. So we're just working all of the details out at the moment. There are other teams that we're obviously very dependent on to get this working. So we've been talking to the graphics team, network team, because obviously I've drilled a hole in my ship with my salvage tool, we want that shown over the network, and that comes with its own problems. So there are a lot of things to factor in, and then it also comes down to things like we've been in contact with the VFX team. At some point, we're going to need to see what the salvage beam actually looks like in situ with what it looks like when we're burning away the EV2s on the ship too. So it is very early stages, investigation, like tech investigation being done by several teams that link into this. And then also very similarly to what we do with a lot of our design workers, we're in kind of working with the teams that, you know, work on the concept of the visuals to see what this looks like, whether it be UI or VFX or anything like that. So,
well, I imagine we'll be following along with it as it develops, just as we will with Refuel, and just as we are currently with like the Colonialism Outpost and everything. Be sure to stay tuned to Inside Star Citizen to see this feature as it progresses throughout the remainder.
Things that have taken a while.
Johnny, that's it.
All right. So yeah, he said they were early. They were in early days. So that was 2 years before the feature came to the game. Now that feature was held up by PES, and it was expected to launch about 6 months earlier. So like, I don't know, early days, we've seen them say things about early days and they've taken 3 to 4 years to get it out. This was early days and they took about 1.5 years to get it out. So it could be all kinds of things, to be honest, but not something you want to hear. Are we going to be required to strip the hull before you can crunch it? No. As of right now, they have said that they will provide different materials because crunching the hull will give you the actual materials the ship is made up of. Titanium, steel, iron, aluminum, whatever it is. Whereas the hull munching gives you RMC. They might switch that though, so that hull munching also provides materials, but we don't know about that yet. He said the team have talked about the buying back of items, sub-items, and purchased items. But he said that for years he needs to tell us how, but Todd always dodges it, and it's why players don't think we will be able to get it back. I don't think we won't be able to get it back. I mean, from what I've heard, they've said that they will have somewhere in-game where you can just buy that stuff again. We don't know the details, but I don't think that makes him a joke for missing that one or for not giving us a release date on that. I highly doubt they won't let us get our sub items and stuff back. That would be like infringing on law at that point, yeah? They'd be getting in some real trouble if you could lose items and not retrieve them with this game. But they only just recently didn't allow for that, right? That was when they removed the player reset tool. Should be watching the UFO hearings. Are they playing Star Citizen? Info we have on getting bought stuff back didn't change. It's just been a while now. Since looting and asked back then, Todd just told players to reset since it's an alpha. Who cares after reset was taken out and repair was put in? He said that till next patch. He said wait till next patch. Well, that is interesting if he said wait till next patch. I don't think that dodging the questions makes them bad though. I think that means that they are in a position where they can't answer them. But I would be interested in hearing more about how that could work. I don't think that makes them a bad person though. They've told us kind of how they're going to do it with the ability to buy back stuff based on your ownership of it. They using Excel? I imagine they use Excel a little bit. All right, so next up here, we start to get more into the actual development of all this stuff. So up until 2021, they were basically just talking about how everything is going to work. It wasn't really physicalized in the game. And then we just started to see these kind of short updates on some of the ships being made for it.
Version of a ship-based salvage. Moving to the next ship.
Okay, and that was that was it. That was the shortest update ever. So I guess that was like one of the first updates we got on this ship. Literally couldn't even... Let's move to the actual episode about the ship. Sorry about that.
The salvage feature is really trying to cater to people who want the diversity and exploration type gameplay.
You might find debris fields of a long lost battle, or on your discovery tour you find a destroyed ship.
I'm excited about players playing this and salvaging wrecks of ships in the PU.
So right now, when you destroy a ship, that's kind of it.
So that's where salvage comes in, where we sort of extend the life of the spaceship.
We want you to be able to find destroyed versions of these, look at them in ways you would never have seen them before, and have this extra gameplay with them.
There are different aspects of Salvage that we want to introduce to the game, and the very first one that we will have is the hull scraping.
Which is where you blast off the external surface of the ship and sell that material for profit.
Hull stripping right now is split into two parts. We have the FPS side, and you have the vehicle side.
So in vehicle hull scraping, this will be for the Vulture and the Reclaimer, where you take your great big salvage lasers and you take...
All right, I got to jump in here again. Jack, if you're not going to state your reasons for not liking somebody, stop insulting them. Please. This will be the last time. Hot air more than progress is an insult. This dude has put his life towards this game. It's his job. He's been working, and he has been, from what I've seen, pretty stand up on these things. So either state the reasons or stop bad-mouthing his work.
Off as much of the material as you can.
For the Vulture, it's very easy. You are the only person. It's the lone wolf ship.
You can go out, explore, find wrecks just by yourself. Best catering to the smaller types of wrecks you would find.
In the Vulture, you activate the salvage mode, which then allows you to use the scraper beams to operate them over the surface area of the ship and gather the material. For the Reclaimer, we highly recommend you to come in a group.
You want probably at least 2 people to man the salvage lasers, and a few people in the back of the cargo bay to help you stash away your earnings. You'll go out, you'll find a wreck, turn on the great big front lights of the Reclaimer so you can see what you're doing, and the 2 people in the salvage turrets will start blasting away at the hull to strip it off. As that happens, you're gathering what we call RMC, recycled material composite material, which gets put into cargo boxes in the filler stations that are in the back of the Reclaimer. And you'll need someone back there to take these full crates out of the dispenser and stack them away on your cargo grid.
And once you have your cargo hold full, you fly to the station where you then can sell the commodity. The FPS loop in comparison is much...
So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. They don't give you the materials. They just give you this RMC material that replaces, I guess, everything specifically. It just gives you one material you can sell. Does anybody actually sell it that much? I feel like... I mean, I guess, yeah, when you're running salvage missions, you're selling it. But ever since they nerfed the prices of guns... I guess that's really all you can sell. I hope that they bring the guns and components back up, because that was a great way of making money. What about the great big lights of the Vulture? The lights that light up nothing? Yeah, those don't work great. I am in agreement with you that the ability to buy things, or rather get things back from the shop that you've bought in-game, that's pretty bad. I think that we really should be getting more news on that problem and like how they're planning on figuring that out. I mean, we know that they're going to have the store, but they still should be talking about it more than they are. That being said, I'm not blaming that on one person or attributing that to a person's reliability, because if they don't have something to say about it right now, they're not going to say it. I don't think that missing those questions is a statement towards their character more than it's a statement towards their want to not lose their job. Reclaimer has the best lights. Reclaimer has solid lights. Still could be better for how big they are, though. You made over 30 million with the Reclaimer, all RMC, solo 90% of the time. Okay, so it's there. The earnings are there. Very relaxing, 170k an hour. Solid. That's pretty good. In your Vulture, Oh, in your vulture, not in a reclaimer. There are other things that can make more, indeed, but like if you like melting stuff, that's pretty nice. You've only been selling RMC with salvage. Guns aren't worth the time. A full grid on a reclaimer of RMC is worth a few million. That's solid. Didn't know it was that much. They need to make a cargo ship that can fit a vulture. Ooh. Like a liberator or something. Just need to organize with a couple other SC creators and we will get the answer. They won't answer us. No, they won't. Will we be at CitizenCon? That is the plan. We are saving up for it. We're hoping to go. Vulture fits in the 890. You use it that way. Does it really? 890 is massive. How long has Starfield been in development? I believe about 8 years. Vulture life is relaxing. Salvaging is a pretty cool. I like it. It hits a good level of relaxation when you're out there.
Much simpler. You just buy a Grey Cat multi-tool. You make sure that you buy the salvage attachment. You make sure that the salvage attachment is actually attached to the Grey Cat multi-tool. And this is the moment where you can scrape off any material that is salvageable right away.
We also want to allow you to use that material that you gain from hull scraping to immediately repair any damage your ship might have taken. This is really useful for people who are out dogfighting, perhaps. You shoot down your opponent, go out with your multi-tool,
Never.
take the hull
I
off their
never
ship
use the
and put it
multi-tool
back
for
on
the
yours to repair
for the
damage.
salvaging.
You will see where on your own ship you have repaired. So you're kind of getting this battle scarring of your ship.
It's like the Bondo you guys are talking about.
So right now, both the FPS and ship hull scraping has progressed very nicely, but there's still a long ways to go with regards to selling the material. We've got a lot of VFX and audio tweaks to do along the way. We want to fully refine the user experience. I'm really excited to see this feature hit the verse. I think it'll be great to watch everyone taking people's ships apart, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Didn't know you could salvage with a multi-tool. It's not really worth it. I mean, I'm sure it will be at some point, especially when you're at your last, like, you don't have much else going for you, you need to repair something. It'd be nice to have them, but the way that the system's set up right now, I don't think it's really worth it to do the hull scraping with your gun like that. You do this with your Warden, though? You actually do the FPS hull scraping? Yeah, I don't think I won't even touch that. Star Citizen and Starfield are on two different paths. One doesn't discredit the other, luckily. Very easy, but it's a step that most people don't want to bother with. That is the hull scraping after you've taken out another ship. Your issue is that you can't seem to find salvage attachments in the same shops as other MT attachments and loot. Huh. Why would they do that? Give us attachments, or give us death. You're not concerned about the name. CIG has renamed many ships before they were released. The Reclaimer was originally the Surveyor. They really do need to get all the ship's components physicalized. It would be great, yeah, to get all of the ships to have their components. That would do wonders for salvage. Given you have to fly off and need a stabilizer and don't want to lose gear. Bring a few cans with you, scrape the dead ships, go to 0G and patch up the holes. Okay, some people do it. Some people do it. Maybe I need to get a little bit more immersed in the game. If you get part of a wing shot off, you don't believe it will repair it back. The multi-tool, no, definitely will not. That's coming later. Don't know if true, but you heard you can put the Reclaimer salvage heads on the Vulture. That sounds, I mean, maybe right now. I hope they would be different sizes though. All right. We got a little bit more to go over here. This is getting, I think, more into the details of Salvage again on the whole Munching side, but we'll see what they have to say. This is from May 5th. So this is after we did get Salvage. Let's see what's up here.
Obviously, Salvage, you made its debut in 3.18 now.
Yep.
We're talking about it for so long, it's hard to. How's that going? How's the response to that been? Are you happy with it? Are you content with it? Or do you see nothing but the problems and where you want to go next? I invite you to be very candid in this. Tell me how you're seeing Salvage right now after its release. Come on, Dan.
Oh, should I do it? I thought I'd leave this one to Torsten.
Okay.
This is his baby. He started this. He brought it to completion. I don't want to talk about it. From mining, I have a lot of things to say because I started it, and then Torsten is bringing it to completion. But for this one, I'd rather let Torsten take it.
So the question was where we are at with it and how happy we are, and I'm really happy with what we have, and especially with the short time that we actually got to work on that. Like, yeah, I know you all have been waiting for it for quite some time, but actually the time frame it was thrown at us was quite short. So I'm really happy with what we pulled out, or what we achieved in that time frame. And I think I mentioned it already at some point, that what I like the most about the Salvage that was introduced with 3.18, so the hull scraping, is that it is such a nice contrast to all the other gameplay loops that we have. Right, we have a very action-based combat, or we have an action-based combat. We have mining that is very now even more than before, but it is like challenging in terms of itemization planning and preparation and stuff like that. While hull scraping right now is you jump into your vulture or into your reclaimer, you drive past some debris pieces, and you can just put on some music and relax and just scrape off their hull. And I think that is this. Like, I think good games are made out of those, like a variety of systems that deliver on certain demands that you as the player have. And sometimes, yeah, you might have had a rough day, so what you need is just sit back, relax, and I think hull scraping is the perfect loop for that. So, yeah, I'm really happy with where we're at. And yeah, what I'm also proud of is that we managed to deliver our first glimpse of crafting. So having that in there with a filler station is also a very nice thing to have.
Yeah,
so
Thorsten seems to always have some good things to say, and has a good head for this stuff, I guess. I like the stuff that he works on generally, and I like the way that he talks about the stuff too. He's very straightforward with it usually, and pretty descriptive. Starfield is centuries earlier. You mean in release date or in lore? Gotcha. Considering the sheer amount of content we still don't have, do I think that having bespoke features like the Reclaimer Claw is too much? Yes. But they made the Reclaimer, and they promised it, and they've got to fulfill their promises. So make it, and try to make sure that it is technology that can be used in other places. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality of Star Citizen. Had to promise cool stuff to sell the dream, and now you gotta fulfill those promises. Derelicts certainly need more going on, to cargo placed in different places, more variety in cargo. You want those dead bodies in there to find. Scary scenarios, couple aliens. I get it. Agreed. It's the unannounced game that's dropping the week of CitizenCon that you should be worried about. Ho ho. More games are more fun. I'm not worried about anything. I think people need to double check themselves if other games make them worry about a game they play. Why do you like the game that you play if you don't have the confidence in it to survive another game releasing? Like, you should just view your game in a vacuum and not worry about other games releasing, other games getting delayed, other games coming out. That'll affect sales. You shouldn't care about sales. You should care about having fun in the game. So, whatever it is that might be coming out the week of CitizenCon, I do hope it ends up being good. I need more games to play. I need more games to play. They need to turn off the lights on the wrecked ships to make them dark places, add some tensions to entering them. Give me a better flashlight though, you know? BF never killed COD, game don't kill other games. I wish that Battlefield had kept on its path. That series is a sad story. Gosh. You're just talking shit? Well, why? Why are you... Do you have something against me that you just like trolling my chat right now? What's going on? Bad day? SC also has no actual counterpart that's comparable. Something that simply is a space game is not a comparison to SC. I remember back when Odyssey was coming out and I'd get people in chat or in YouTube comments telling me that it was gonna kill Star Citizen, and then it ended up killing Elite Dangerous instead. I don't take pleasure in that either. I wish that Elite Dangerous was still doing much better. That game could have been the exploration space game we all want, but instead they tried to do FPS for some reason. So yeah, I mean, games don't kill games. Bad development kills games. And right now, the development in this game is fairly good. They're struggling with server meshing, sure, but like, as far as game systems go, as far as what we've looked at today with Salvage, I think the development's fairly healthy. And I don't think for that reason that this game's going anywhere. The addicts will always come back. Need that hit! Since The Witcher came out, other great RPG games have come out, yet people still play The Witcher. Goes to show that more games only means options to choose from. More games, please. Honestly, like, always more games. More good games, though. Zencat, you can't handle all this heartbreak. Let me send you further. Let me remind you of Mass Effect Andromeda. Ooh. I've got a good one for you. How about Anthem? Oh yeah, you get the slow zoom on my face for that one. There have been some disappointments in the last 6 years, 10 years, whatever you want to call it. I have not played BattleBit. Anthem hits hard. Anthem hurts. Anthem is the only game that I have ever stuck around in the community out of spite. I look at people do that in Star Citizen all the time and I'm like, what are you doing? And then I remember my 2-month stint on Reddit where I would stick around on the Anthem subreddit just to make puns and troll because I was so pissed off what happened with that game. And then after 2 months, I was like, why am I still here? And I never went back. Still need a few years. The Division. Yeah, The Division could have been better. Cyberpunk was a little bit painful at the time. Just ripping off old wounds right now. I see Morphologist has come in with the good folks over there. The whales. I don't think. Do you guys have do y'all have a mascot? Y'all whales? He had that really funny shirt with the whale on it. I don't know if there's anything else. But what's up, Morph? Hello, Morph and friends. We're going over Salvage gameplay. Everything they've said about it. All the things. We are also talking about games that have hurt us. Like Anthem and Battlefield series and Elite Dangerous Odyssey. It's rough times. Yeah, Cyberpunk. You still have Winston the whale? Dude, Winston's looking... Yeah, there he is. There he is. Winston the lazy whale. I call him lazy just because I'm not used to seeing whales on the ground like that. Usually they're floating in the water, looking fabulous. Still playing Cyberpunk. It's not too bad these days. I just started a new playthrough in anticipation of Phantom Liberty. I'm enjoying it more than I did the first time, but I'm still seeing the lack of RPG stuff I really am interested in. All right, let's get back to the salvage talk. I'm sorry, I took us away from this. What else were they saying about salvage here?
Like already a glimpse for all of you players, but yeah, that's what's to come.
You touch on something. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, I just wanted to fill in on this. It's kind of funny because when we started working on this, there was a bit of a clash of ideas, which always happens with anything you're designing. Thorsten was always trying to deliver this more chilled experience.
Fate, thank you for gifting out that sub to Morph, thank you for the raid. Letting people know about our conversation coming up on Saturday. Yeah, I'm going to have... I haven't even talked about that. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to have Morph with me on a podcast this weekend, Citizen Central. As many of you know, it's our monthly podcast about Star Citizen, hard-hitting topics, the history of it, the history of Star Citizen, whether or not it's actually going in the right direction. It tends to be a little bit more critical, I would say, than the launch sequence, which is every week. So if you want to check that out, it's on the second channel, or you can just search Citizen Central on Google, and it should pull up all of the, Spotify, Apple, whatever it is. This week, I'm having Morph on in addition to Board Gamer, Salty Mike, and the Astropub. I wanted to bring the 4 YouTube creators that I know have been around long, for however long, the last 10 years, and talk to them kind of about the long-term coverage of the game, the trends, how they feel about some of the stuff that's been going on in terms of marketing, in terms of development, and all that kind of jazz. So we'll be doing that live, but if you miss it, it will be up on all of the platforms next week as well. Should be a good talk. Anyways, back to the goodness.
It's just you and your ship in the middle of nowhere, just hard scraping whatever you found. And I was like, no, it needs to be challenging. It needs to explode if you touch a wire or something like this. And we're like, no, just, let's do it this way. And indeed, you need to have the variety. If everything explodes the second you do something wrong, you always have that tension. So it's nice to have the ups and downs. There will be chances for explosions and stuff like this with other gameplay, or maybe with other parts of Salvage. But it's nice to have a mix of everything. And I do have to add to what Thorsten just said, is like the team pulled off an amazing feature. There were a lot of dependencies on other team, and it came at a time when a lot of heavy tech was coming, and it kind of influenced the delivery, and they did an amazing job.
Yeah. Actually, on that, before it's forgotten, because without the weapon feature team that did the pre-phase work, and the VFX team that pulled out like the amazing damage map work that was required for that, we would be sitting here and talking about this. So also huge kudos to the weapon feature team and to the VFX team that really helped us achieve what we have now.
Yeah, if for backers who are used to mining and exploding and dying, you can send your letters to Dan Treppan.
That's me.
Care of Cloud Imperium Games.
Constantly exploding and dying, or just running into the side of a moon. You know how it is. Twitch Wetsu, thank you so much for the 100 bits there on Twitch. I appreciate your support. To be real, do I ever feel like me and other YouTubers are forced to milk content because of CIG's lack of content? Oh, this year for sure. This year, the information has been slow. Now, I'll say this. I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't content to cover. Like, what we're doing right now, talking about Salvage, I think this has value because there's so much to talk about, right? But I want to make more content for Starfield. There's just not as much to make it about. So it doesn't feel like milking content because it is fresh. It's not overdone. It's not stuff that is irrelevant. It's just stuff you have to do a little bit more work to cover. Instead of getting this stuff hand delivered to us every week, I just have to go in and do more research on my own time. So there's more effort put into making content when CIG has been as quiet as they have been this year. But it doesn't feel like a problem. I haven't felt like I've not known what to cover anymore. Although I would like to play the game a little bit more. Would like some new stuff to get my hands on. See you around, Firebird. Just wanted to say you feel the feels. SC has been really, really hard to love lately. Stay strong. Yo, we got another DJ in the chat. I think Morph might have popped out. But I know he feels it at the heart. You love the salvage gameplay, just really wish they did not nerf the salvage to death. Love getting weapons and cargo out of them. Yeah, hopefully that comes back in a better way. Any ETA on the PTU for 3.20? Not yet. We don't know just yet. Would I consider doing a full rewatch of The Next Great Starship? That was a series of videos, right? Oh, it's literally DJ. Cloned yourself to be on Twitch. Okay, cool. I see you. I see you, Cat Mom. It's as bad as the 2.0 moments back in the day. I was more 3.0 than 2.0, so I can't talk about 2.0 too much. Is 3.20 late? I can't say. Who knows when it was even supposed to come out? I was thinking October. Maybe it seems like it's coming much earlier though. All right. I know that's not the last bit of salvage we have. So, like, I'm pretty sure, hold on, let's look up Hull Munching, because I'm pretty sure they've done some talking about Hull Munching in the last couple of months. Really? There's no Hull Munching? Really wish, why do devs release new ships with more features than older ones and never update the older ones with those features? Usually because they're waiting until we get to a certain point when they can bring the ship up to date. So like if they wanted to update the Cutlass Black with everything it needed based on what was releasing, we would have gotten an update when we got toilets. Then we would have gotten an update when they, I don't know. What other features are there? If they updated the ship every time there was a new feature to add to it, they'd be constantly behind on updating ships. Instead, they try to wait until we reach a certain point or when that ship's update is relevant to do it all at once. It's kind of like how the star map right now sucks because they haven't added anything to it since 2017. And instead of adding new features over the years, they're just waiting until they have a new one to replace it. Let's see. Yeah, so it's definitely in this video. Why didn't we get more talk about Hull Munching? Is this what we need?
Salvage, where do we want to go with this? We know...
What were we just listening
Munching
to?
is in...
This is 24 minutes. This is... Okay, so I was a little bit behind. I was a little ahead of where we should have been. So this will tell us a lot about their immediate plans for Hull Munching and be kind of the lead-in for what we're going to see tomorrow. Well, we need ship tractors before Hull Munching. So yes, everyone wants 320, which might have ship tractors. Maybe. I don't know. I would hope so, but I don't know. Updates don't bring in new money. Honestly, I feel like they do. I think as more features come online, more people are willing to play. Like if they did not sell any ships and then they released server meshing, vehicle tractor beams, a full economy, I think people would be way more excited to spend more money on stuff than the ships because it builds confidence too in the continuing of the game. Maybe not if they release like really cool ships. Your average ship. Nothing wrong with our current star map. Stanko! Don't make me time you out. Don't make statements like that. You think you're drunk? Are we going to focus on salvage for 4 years like we did with mining? I don't think so, actually. I think salvage is probably going to have a year in the limelight, if that, since we already have engineering, bounty hunting, and refining coming up too. Physicalized components, aerodynamic surfaces, engineering, life support, physicalized item placement, kitchens, hygiene, drones, workstations, crafting. Yeah, so like they're going to wait until that stuff is mainly done until they add all of it in. What's happening tomorrow? They're showing off Hull Munching. They only give those new features to new ships because opening up an old ship takes away from the new ship pipeline. Not exactly to new ships, ships that are capable. Like the components, physicalized components are in any ship that has the physicalized components working. Unfortunately, that's like the last 3 years. but it's not necessarily just the ship that's brand new. Or like salvaging gameplay was added to the Vulture. I guess that technically is a new ship since it launched with it, but it is a ship that was sold originally back in 2018. So not necessarily new. Modules for ships are being worked on for the Retaliator, which is one of the older ships in the game. The Reclaimer, I guess, also got Salvage, which isn't a new ship. That's a ship that launched back in 2018 or something like that. What else is there? I'm imagining that the Nomad, for instance, will probably get vehicle tractor beams when tractor beams come into the game. I think there's an enormous population who won't buy until the game loops are in. Yeah, agreed. Presenting new ships grabs existing players, but new players will buy when the patches focus on the game loops. Yeah, I think that's true. Wonder what the solution will be for ships that have removable components that won't fit through the door. Reworks, baby. Unfortunately. That's what they were doing with the Freelancer just recently. Sounds like another 20 years of work to you? Probably. This is going to be a long-term game. I think Munching could use the Maelstrom system. We don't know how that ties in exactly just yet. But we'll probably find out tomorrow. Data for the MSR. Yeah, I don't know when that's happening. Haven't seen it much. It happens occasionally, but it really depends on the feature and the ship. Alright, let's see what they have to say about this hull munching. This will be the last update we have, getting us up to date with whatever's coming tomorrow. So listen in.
In our future, talk to me about where we want to take munching, what's next for hull scraping. What can you tell us, Thorsten?
So hull scraping for now is, I want to say on a rest, but that's not entirely true because it will get touched while we are working right now on the munching aspect. So some improvements will come with our munching release.
Yay!
It will also affect the hull scraping part of it.
So we'll get hull scraping and hull munching updates in the same update. This is May, by the way. This is about 2 months ago, a little more. Almost 3 months ago now.
But yeah, so the next step for Salvage was what was released right now in 3.19, which is the item stripping. So that is already a huge step forward for the Salvage gameplay loop. And I think it was even one of the most requested, most waited for, however you want to phrase it, but like I personally am really happy about it because it ties in really nicely with all the features that we internally work on. So the synergy is really nice with like even with refueling in the end, because you can switch out your fuel pods. There are still things that we need to do there, right? So it was already called out in several points on Spectrum or in our community videos or in other channels, that there are still a lot of things that we need to do to make it work perfectly. We are aware, and we are working on that. But yeah, then the next big step, and I think that will be the most fun, and I'm personally looking forward the most to that, is actually the munching. So yeah, like every reclaimer owner will be happy to actually be able to use their claw at some point on any debris ship. And yeah, but not only is it important for those ship owners, but it's also important now with PES. So I think that is even more important than any gameplay right now. We need cleanup, and there's no better way to do cleanup than to gamify it and then like have it rewarding in the sense of, yeah, you destroy the ships. It's fun to destroy those ships or those debris pieces, and then you convert them into resources, and then you are either able to sell those for like just profit, or you use the resources you gather for crafting then coming in the very far future.
So
this is sorry, one thing. This is an important. It's not a shift in mentality. It's a good mentality that we've always had, but I think it shows, especially with PES, Yes, we filled up the universe with a lot of wrecks and a lot of junk. But what we're doing right now, we're starting to introduce the gameplay that's going to clean it up. And Munching is just one of things. We know there's a big mess happening on the space stations, on the landing zones. So we will be introducing systems that also will tackle that. But we don't want to just just clean it up faster, just remove it and destroy basically PES. What we're going to do is involve the player into it.
You don't want to
so
hide
if a location needs cleaning, then the players will have a chance to do that and get.
So they're talking about this idea that Salvage will help with cleanup, something that we've also talked about with like janitor work in cities, which they are working on. So that's all well and good, but like somebody said in chat, they still need to allow us to use tractor beams in armistice zones, which means they need to get better law and security systems, and you start to see how like certain things need to be updated to allow for other things, and we need to hear about the law system too. I think that's going to be important. Spark, I'm curious. I promise I'm not trying to like put you on the spot, but I'm curious, when you say actual game content, are you talking about like just having more in-depth quests in the game, or having more game systems online? What exactly would you be looking for in the next 2 years to convince you to stick around? Nice man. There he is. I don't even think he's there. Yeah, he's got a lot of guitars back here, and a keyboard, and speakers. It's a musician guy. If you have a CS1 or 2, you should be able to do contract on the legal terminals to pick up a janitor job to pay it off. Some community service would be appreciated. I would love to see people doing community service at the local space station. I just run by and like throw my bottles on the ground. Run away giggling. That's my way of trolling in the verse. A little less violent. If you don't get Pyro this year, walking yourself. I don't think we'll get it this year. I think they want to get it to us, but I'm putting my expectations on not happening this year. Systemic approach is to clean up from a game service perspective. Interesting to see this at scale within SC. Yeah, the systemic approach to cleanup is really cool. The fact that it's going to be kind of included in the game's systems. Always do janitor work in Port Tressler. Your local inventory is full of trash. Just chuck it on the ground. Somebody else will take care of it, right? You're still new to the game and have been cursory on following. Is there an ability or viability to do long-haul cargo transportation? Long haul, you can do missions in between planets. Relatively long haul. 40 million kilometer trips. But not in different star systems or anything like that just yet. I don't know exactly what the difference between long and short haul would be in the game right now, since everything is kind of compact ish. I guess short haul could be like from a moon to a planet, but yeah, generally you can do cross system expeditions. Whatever happened to the EVA missions they wanted to spawn at stations? Yeah, those aren't in game. Maybe with EVA T2 we'll start to hear more about missions like that. They promised us 100 plus systems, but 11 years on, just one so far. So when is 100 plus? I don't think we'll ever see 100 plus. I'm sure they'll continue to work towards it, but I don't think it will ever happen. There is the idea of 100 plus systems is insanity, considering how much they're trying to detail each planet and stuff. And I think that was probably one of the things that they should have when they expanded the game in 2015. They should have just come out and said, we are not going to do 100 plus systems. Because That definitely still gets used as a bar, and I think it's impossible at this point. Personally, you think it will be for the best to keep the verse small till we have the gameplay to make it more of a game and less public testing environment. Same. I think build out one system, build out maybe 2 systems, get them to work very well as a space sim environment MMO that people love, and then start adding a bunch of systems. But make sure the game itself works first. Your whole fleet was based on more systems. I think there will be more systems, just not 100. I think we'll definitely be seeing like 10 systems in the next 10 years. I think they're going to have to scale it up so that they could do development at that speed. Not impossible, that's true, just unlikely. They can make them with procedurally generated, add details later. Yeah, they don't want to do that though. They want locations to feel more unique than that. And we can see that with Pyro. The way that they're building out Pyro really starting to show how unique an experience they want each system to be. So I think outside of just the planetary assets and stuff, when you're talking about atmospheres, music, AI, factions, the types of missions you might see, that stuff's got to be a little more handcrafted. I think you're forgetting the question they asked beginning of development. They asked us what we wanted in the game. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, the expansion of the game. I think back then they should have just said 100 systems as a pipe dream if we go this route. Agreed, Space Patrol. Some more stuff to explore would be great. If you're not going to give us 100 plus systems, why keep the star map up? Because I still think it's probably something that they would like to do. I personally don't think that they'll complete it. But I think that's, like, everything in that is something they still want to do. Very clear optimism, well-explained topic, great deal, tomato, stick to it, clear insight into the topic. Thank you. I'm sorry, we get really distracted on this show. I'm sorry about that. Short, medium, long-range travel mechanics will make it so that living in one system will feel like it's enough. Yes, absolutely. Near one planet, I'm hoping will feel like it's enough. There are 6 systems in Squadron. We'll probably see those in the PU not long after the release of Squadron 42. I only know of Odin. I only know of Odin as the Squadron 42 system. Yeah, not for you. Not everybody is going to be okay with one system or one planet. Sorry, back to the salvage. You guys talk.
Gain some rewards from that.
So you'd say you're both are really looking forward to Munching.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you both like stripping. There's nothing wrong with stripping, but you're really looking forward to Munching.
So I cannot talk about that in detail, but I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. If you had to pick Munching or stripping.
Munching.
Nice.
For the upcoming Munching release.
Pardon?
Meme camera 2. I'm sorry. All right.
God, Jared.
You're watching the last show of Disco Lando, only at twitch.tv/StarCitizen. Let's move on to tractor beams.
Okay,
tractor
I
beams,
swear there was a little bit more info about the hole munching here. Hold up. What's the timing there? 32 minutes. Where were we? Hole munching. Blah 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 blah. Hole munching. Blah 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 blah. Okay, looks like right here we catch back up with it.
It happened first when.
Because I'm pretty sure they mentioned
first one, salvaging.
when I talked about that answer of how you would get the materials of what you were hull munching. I believe it was during this show, but I might be wrong. This was May, right? Yeah. Hopefully this is the part.
You just go straight into hull munching. Will the hull basically be a blocker to performing munching gameplay, or will you just get less RMC if you don't strip the hull first?
Yeah, on this one you will completely lose out on the RMC because, like, yeah, well, you will at least lose some bits, right? If you start the munching process and that will break apart your ship, there will be like some hull material will get lost. So this is definitely some material loss that you will have there.
I'm sorry. Do we expect the munching to provide RMC, or would it be like a different resource?
Yeah, well, so in our first iteration, the munching will not provide RMC, but for later, once we have actually, because the explanation would take a bit longer, because what we actually need to have the proper materials is the physicalized materials that, like, each component the ship made of is aware of which material it is made of, right? So if you break apart a ship, that the piece exactly knows what it is made of, and then you munch it, and then you actually get the exact components what it was made of. This is something that is more complicated to do than what we are currently working on. Currently, we will be working on something that is more like it converts it to a dedicated or defined mix of materials. So we don't know yet what the actual part is made of, but that will then come once the physicalized materials will come in.
Yeah.
So with that, we don't plan to have RMC being part of that, because we want to leave it like exclusive to the hull scraping. But for the
There's our answer. From earlier we were talking about will it take the material away from the salvage job. Hull munching will always, or hull scraping will always be RMC, it sounds like. Hull munching will take away from that, but you will get the normal materials from hull munching. So, good clarification there. Didn't you see that they were just deciding on a munching concept, as in they haven't even started in-game work on it yet? No, they have a prototype that they're going to show of it tomorrow. So in-game work, yeah, they've only recently just started on that, I guess. And concept-wise, though, they decided on a hull munching concept a while back, I think, when in these videos we were listening to from earlier. What's the point of the Carrack now if it only has one wormhole to chart out? I don't think the Carrack is just meant for wormholes. I think it's meant for a lot of different types of discovery, but there will be other jump points. They've already said that some systems will have moving jump points, so even if there is just one jump point, it might move and you might have to find a new one. And we're also going to have a couple other systems. Nyx, Odin, Pyro, Stanton are probably the first four. Terra, maybe at some point after that. So I don't think that by the time the game releases, the Carrack will be useless. Their job is to find gameplay for the things they've brought into the game. So if something that they do makes something less useful, then they have to go through the work to find out a way to make it more useful again. They don't have video of this yet, no. Tomorrow. Thought it was just to show the different modules of a ship going away when you munch. Like when you scrape, you can see the different sections. No, you'll be breaking them apart. Thought hull munching would only be shown next year, so this is a welcome surprise. Yeah, it sounded like they wanted to get some decent work in on it. Its main role is wormhole charting. Well, it sounds like they're going to have to focus on making sure wormholes are a part of the game then. But again, I don't think that wormhole charting is going to be something that people are doing every day. It wouldn't make sense logistically if they were going to have a bunch of, like, there are thousands of Carracks. Somebody's going to have to be exploring for something different. That means none of the other professions have even been concepted yet. They have. That's how we actually started. So these are a lot of the concepts for professions. These were made 7 years back or so. And if you go and you look at the professions that are being made, they usually correspond pretty closely to these. So they have certain ones for, here's for civilian transport, here's for cargo, here's one for the ship thrusters, which is something that they're working on with the heat system. And you've got one here actually that's just covers all careers and roles. So they've concepted out a lot of this stuff and they've put in the design work. It's more so the in-game work that they don't get done, and specifically like the details of how it will work. You get the concept done and then you have to go to the designers and the engineers and be like, okay, how do we make this work with the code, with the actual game? And I think that's probably where they are with something like hacking, or engineering or refining, as opposed to, say, data running or farming. I don't think those are in concept. Or at least, I don't think they have the design figured out. We have 4 systems with, what, 30 plus Orions in one system? Yeah, see, I don't think it would be reasonable for everybody to be looking for those jump points. How much progress do I think the PU will make when Star Citizen comes out? Thinking they might just relocate a huge chunk of staff. Oh, when Squadron comes out. I think a decent amount of people will be working on Star Citizen stuff more. But they'll also need to work on the second Squadron as well. They describe the wormholes as a rope that is frayed on one end. Each rope strand will have to be mapped. Strands. Wormhole stranding. Jump stranding. Do we know how vulture salvage will work if there is more than one material in a ship? Will they have to rework the salvaging making box machine, or will it be one SCU box of mixed materials? I'm thinking it will probably distribute the materials into a box once you fill up that amount of a material. And then you can force it to spit out the material you want if you can't fill a whole box. Seems easiest to me, I don't know. SC went from 100 plus star systems down to just 4. Look at all the peeps who have caps. Where are they all going to park in only 4 systems? You're making arguments that nobody is saying, man. You're telling me that you are drawing an equivalence between Star Citizen saying they will release with 100 systems, and now you're saying that Star Citizen is only going to release with the first 4 systems we've talked about. You don't think that they will ever work on any more systems after that? Because your first sentence there says that they went from 100 plus systems down to 4. Where are you getting the idea that they're only going to launch 4 systems in this game? We need GEO marking on our Moby glasses before we can really explore. Yeah, getting some of our own waypoints would be nice. Yeah, you can't take my opinion and and make that the what CIG has said. I am saying opinion here. I think 4 to 5 is going to be great for an initial release. I don't think they're going to stop at 4 to 5. See, Jack, you keep on making all of these statements throughout this stream and then not backing them up and changing the topic, and it's actually starting to annoy me. It's kind of starting to get on my nerves, man. Don't I make the game? Please send all of your complaints to me. We won't get over 100 systems. No, I don't think we will. Again, that's my opinion, but I don't think we will. It's not the same as going from 100 plus to 4. Like 4 systems for this game is wildly underselling what possibilities there could be in the future of this development. Let's get back to the salvage.
A lot of fun stuff in 3.19. Give us the quick rundown for folks who may not have seen last season's ISC on it, Thorsten.
You can now attach and detach any ship items and some of the internal components with your tractor beam of choice.
And has that been, internally, has that been a smooth addition to the game? Or how's that been going?
Not at all. Especially with like So there are several issues that we were facing, right? So I think the biggest one is actually how do we get items comfortably out of the inventory and then place them on your ships, right? So your station inventory, how do you get the items out of there and then have them accessible? So that was, and there we had a lot of painful sessions, like when I was talking about, I think in our last ISC, that we had the Cutlass Black prepared with all the mining heads in there. We can do that. We can cheat. We can spawn items. We don't have to do the annoying part of actually equipping one of your ships and then like pulling the items off and then So this is something that we uncovered, but I think that the most drastic one is which I'm me as a player, I'm really like not so happy about this decision, but me as sitting here with my CIG hat on, I think that's the only decision we could come up with deactivating tractor beams again in the green zones, because I think in one of our earliest Fleet Week test sessions, we had players like basically ripping out all the items, and the entire Fleet Week hall was just like impassable because like everything was lying around, and that's not fun for players, right? Because that also adds to like even though you couldn't even carry out the big weapons through the elevator out, right? So you didn't even have a benefit of it. It was just like bringing havoc to the world and making everyone else's lives miserable. So we had to jump in and come up with this temporary solution and deactivate the tractor beam in the green zones. But yesterday we activated at least again in the hangars. So there was so shout out to Yaro, who just did jump in and did a quick fix for that. So
No, it was I think people were going into the showroom and pulling the components out of the display ships.
Yeah,
is that what I saw?
That's good stuff, man. We want to do that. Give us more freedom to do that. So that's kind of the last little update. I think the big takeaways here are from 2015 with this design post talking about taking out components, talking about hull stripping, and some of this other stuff that obviously is coming more with repair gameplay than salvage, to all of these videos where they talked about the drones. Well, we haven't actually seen drones, but the hull munching, the hull stripping, all of the details that they've shared throughout all these years are consistent. And they've finally gotten to this place where it's in-game. It came in-game with 3.18. Surprisingly, really caught me off guard. The very next patch, they dropped in physicalized components for the more updated ships. Honestly, more about the tech than the feature itself. I'm really glad that they got that into the game. As you can see from this review, that was kind of a blocker for a lot of things, so that's been good. We're going to see hull munching tomorrow, and we know that engineering is starting to enable life support, oxygen transfer between ships, which should allow for siphoning. So the different work between all of the salvage gameplay that they're planning has definitely taken some real steps forward over the last year, and it sounds like we're going to get something good to watch tomorrow with the prototype that hopefully isn't going to be too far away in the game, but setting myself up for that. So that has been our review of Salvage. Hope you guys got to learn something about it, got a little up to date on the information, maybe learned something new. And tomorrow, I don't even know what I have planned tomorrow, but we'll get into something. I'm not going to watch the Starfield videos today because this actually went kind of late. I will be watching those tomorrow, so we'll hop on stream tomorrow, talk about something new, go over some Starfield stuff, just kick back. If you guys like watching this, any of you who are watching this after the fact as a video, come join us live. Get into some discussion with us. A lot of the discussion is edited out of these videos, so you can always come in here and see a little bit more of what we talk about in the meantime. It's usually pretty off topic. And besides all that, Ares Inferno giveaway is still going, guys. Make sure to get in on that exclamation point giveaway in Twitch or on YouTube. I think maybe both. Check it out, see if you can win a ship. And I'll have a 3.20 update video probably coming out tomorrow as well. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, I want some engineering gameplay. Have the devs ever mentioned jetpacks, rocket boots, or parachutes? They've mentioned that they want a way for people to stop themselves from falling to their death. But we don't know how they're going to do it yet. I think parachutes might be a little bit rough given the different atmospheres. 2036 swimming update will come sooner than you think. Believe it. Swimming is important. Will scraping push them to get more ships up to the gold standard? I think Physicalized components is going to do that. And engineering gameplay. Engineering gameplay feels to me like their minimum bar for a ship. It feels like a good place to get every ship up to date, so that over the next 3 years, if they fall out of the gold standard again, they can update it again. But engineering seems like a good bar, you know? That or control surfaces. Hard to stay positive anymore about this game. I take a step back. I always think it's a good idea too. Gave them time and patience, and it's dwindling. Find something good to take your time up, you know? Go play Starfield for a few months. Any mention of it recently? Of what? Night Clock. Hey, no problem, Jim. Thanks for coming. Coffee Gaming, thanks for joining. It's going to be a very painful year as a secret project is... Okay. Salvaging is definitely an interesting game loop. It is. There's a lot of potential there. Will it be quicker on Drake ships due to Drake having almost no hull armor? We will have to see. We'll have to see what hull armor Drake ships get, what they do with that. Just want SC to love us. Love us. Hold us. Siphoning liquids will be a feature, Momak. We talked about that today, actually, if you want to go back in the stream. Dreadlocks, don't worry, we'll have this posted up in a shortened version for you. You won't miss out too much. Oh, reply about the planet falling mechanisms. Yeah, I don't know. Crap, now I don't remember what the reply was. Oh, no mention of it recently. Just briefly they talked about it, but they didn't say what they wanted to do. Any dev updates on base building? Just the Rastar tool, which is what they're using to build updates. Just that it's going well. But I think base building's still a couple years out. Yeah, they're getting the tools better prepared for themselves to build them first. Can't wait to see PO go. I can't wait to have a spawn point over there for sure. For sure. I would much prefer spawning there than all the way down on Orison, flying through the atmosphere. That's awful. Do I think we will get the claw working on the reclaimer? That seems to be their goal with ship munching. The claw is a pretty big part. Salvage charges will be a pretty big part. And honestly, those two, I think. Guess salvage charges and then the tractor function for the vulture. Kind of like what the YouTube thumbnail looks for this stream. The legal team say SC is released, so how do I feel about that? I feel like they are using words to make sure they don't get any sort of blowback for continuing to develop the game. Say it's released, still in development, easy enough to legal speak. I don't like legal speak. That's why I didn't become a lawyer. Salvaging drones for the reclaimer also. That would be nice. And also, apparently, what sounds like salvaging drones from the Vulcan, if you can give them the same equipment. Should be pretty cool. Do I think the value of AUEC is good at the moment? I feel like it's too easy for groups to make money and it's just right for solo players. I don't know. I think we don't have enough missions really to understand the full spread of how we'll get paid out, you know? We don't have money sinks, we don't have missions, we don't have a lot of stuff to buy. Feels like we could know more about how AUEC is going to work before we decide on its value. How can it be released if it's just an alpha and being tested, not played? I mean, you could literally, like, I could literally say I'm building Chapstick and then throw it out the window and be like, hey, it's released. I think ultimately they get to decide on how they're gonna refer to it. They've released an alpha, so be it. You've released a beta, you've released a tech demo, released a vertical slice. It's all about semantics. You just tell people to call it a project instead of a game. The term game sets limitations. Everyone knows the best part about SC is the people you meet and the entire project and process. Agreed, actually. I would say there's the appeal of following Star Citizen for me is like 60% the game that I want to play, and 40% just being super curious about how games work and what makes games work the way they do. So I love the development side of it and following all this stuff. I don't think it's for everybody, but I would say, yeah, it's a project. You can follow it in all parts like a project. It actually probably is better than playing it like a game, because playing it like a game can get infuriating at times. Release the Chapstick. No, I'm sorry. This is a tier 0. You're going to have to wait a couple of years. Get this updated. Get some dependencies out of the way. You know how it is. Desync. Chapstick desync. Going to start bringing that up from time to time in Tomato's chat. What is that? Oh, the chapstick. I'll have to keep it here to remind myself. Running out of things to do. Have you been here since day one? I would take a break. I took a break from this game when I was running out of things to do, and it was great. It's going to be tomato red chapstick too. Oh, this is not tomato red. And you won't be able to call it lipstick. It's just red looking chapstick. Tomato flavor though. Oh God. Ew. Just wiping tomato juice on your lips. That is gross. That's... I don't want to imagine that. That's kind of gross. I gotta sell chapstick concept before it comes out. Oh, I'm gonna have some great chapstick JPEGs. I'm gonna let you melt your chapstick and rebuy some other chapstick types. Your whole thing about release and finished game is that we have no idea what it even means anymore. Is a game finished when there is planned DLC? Yeah, sometimes they just straight take a part out of the game to release it as DLC. I don't know. My answer is if you're bored with the game, take a break from it. It's not going anywhere. Anyways, folks, that is it for today. Thank you everybody for coming and hanging out, listening to the Salvage speech. You know what? Let me look and see what we have planned for tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are looking at... Oh, exploration ships. That should be interesting. I'll have to do some research for that. Might change that subject up, actually. We'll see. Exploration ships, that's a lot. That's hefty. In SC case, can we finish the game, then release planets one by one? Or will people still be mad? I don't know. Everybody wants something different. What's the next org event? We've got an org event coming up later today. In about 3 hours. Some cargo gameplay. We have a mining event coming up tomorrow. We have bounty hunting and salvage tomorrow. We also have a cargo event tomorrow and some combat events tomorrow. We have anti-drug bounty hunting events on Saturday, FPS events on Sunday, as well as some mining on Sunday as well. So we've got plenty of stuff going on in the org if you're looking for some gameplay. !org, join GII, get in there with us. If you're getting bored with the game, it's always better with a group. Thank you, Static Pop. Appreciate you. All right, folks. That's a lot of good stuff. It's been a good day. Again, I hope you have a great one. Enjoy yourselves. I'll see you all tomorrow with some interesting looks into salvaging, it seems like. And yeah, good vibes. Have a good one. Much love. Catch you later.